Call the regular meeting of the Grand Falls School Board to order. Please stand with me for the Pledge of Allegiance. Pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation. Nothing like your voice repeated. We good? Good. Is that really how my voice sounds?
Yes.
I don't like it. All right. In attendance today, we have Director Butler, Director Ledoux, Director Kincaid, myself. Director Veach is absent, and I'd like to make a motion to excuse Director Veach's absence for tonight.
Second.
Motion's been made and seconded. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Oh, and I'm so sorry, Ava. I told you I wasn't even going to do that, and I did it. We have our new high school representative, Ava, who we're very happy to have on the board. And tonight's her first night. So,
Has she been sworn in?
No.
no? Are we doing that tonight? No. Okay. First up, 2A, Brent Kirk with the Railroad Day.
So I didn't know if I could just do public comment or what, but I ran into Robert a couple days ago.
Do you mind standing up there? Just because,
Can you hear me?
yes,
So these meetings are recorded, correct?
they are.
People can look at them on YouTube like parents. So as you guys may or may not know, the last 2 years, we've seen a huge decrease in service clubs, and the Chamber of Commerce is one of those clubs that basically died on the vine over the pandemic. And I got the pleasure of taking the interim presidency on top of my daily duties as the city manager of the city. And currently the mayor is the vice president, and we got Chris Bonner from Bonner Insurance to be the treasurer, which is good. But we're going to start making a push over the next couple of months to get people involved in the chamber again. And Railroad Days is a good segue for that, because for those of you that don't know, historically the chamber has ran these events: Show and Shine, Railroad Days, the Halloween event. And the long and short of it is that you just don't see the participation that we used to see. And I saw it dying even before the pandemic. And a good example I used last week was I'm a member of the Lions Club in Lake Stevens. When I joined 15 years ago, we had 80 members. We now have 40 members, and we are the biggest Lions Club in the county with 40 members.
Wow.
So it isn't just a Grand Falls thing, right? I mean, this is a regional thing. The Stanwood Chamber of Commerce just closed down completely. They just dissolved as of about a month ago. So the long and short of it is, if you're a parent, if you're a teacher, if you're a school board member, getting involved in these community events is paramount if you guys don't want to go to the parties, because there's nobody to throw the party if you don't have people on these boards. And, I can't continue to do this. So we're hoping to find some board members between now and the end of the year, and then help hopefully transition them into, being the next people to hold the torch and these types of things. And another example is Beth Morrison's been doing the parade since like 2012, right? And she says, I've been trying to get off this parade duty for 8 years now. And every year she gets stuck doing it again. And she has no problem being kind of a mentor to somebody who can do it in the future. But the people that have volunteered, a lot of them that are still doing it are burned out. Catherine Anderson stepped up and managed all the coordination of Railroad Days, but she is literally going to do the mic drop the day of the event and walk away. And she wants nothing to do with the chamber. She wants nothing to do with being on the board. She just stepped up to help. And it dawned on me the other day, I started thinking about it. The people that are really important in this community, the people that shop here, the people that eat here, the people that are students, their schools, the kids go to school here, they don't live in town. You think about it, a lot of them, Carl lives outside of town, really active in the community. Fred Kruger, the museum curator, lives outside of town. Vervia, bless her soul, lived outside of town and did all kinds of things for the community. Carol Panegas, solid, just solid people in the community that don't live in town. And I thought, what better way to reach them than to be on a YouTube video that's going to get posted that people and parents can look at a school board meeting. So that's kind of why I came tonight. And I got a council meeting at 7 o'clock, but I mean, and I'm honestly thinking that, I would be the first person right now to nominate Robert Butler as the new president of the chamber.
Talk to Mindy Butler about that.
But you guys get my drift. I felt like I need to get the word out. We're gonna have a chamber meeting, probably the middle of October. If anybody's interested in attending that meeting, they can send an email to the city, contact me. I'll put them on a list, an email list, and get the date out so we can get together and meet. And, you know, the Halloween event, we've got Carol Bello managing that, who used to be the law enforcement secretary at the police station. And what I have found is that the model we were using for the chamber the last few years, which is, you know, buy into sponsorship and you can sponsor all 4 of these events, but then you have individual people that are passionate about individual events. And it may come to a point where if the chamber can't stay afloat, that we just start having committees, you know, like they have an Aquafest committee in Lake Stevens. That's all they do is Aquafest. Maybe we have a Railroad Days committee, we have a Halloween committee, and they're not part of the chamber anymore. Maybe we have a different business model on how it works, but I'd love to have input from the community on what they want to do. Because the other thing I've noticed is it's a lot more of a vendor-centric push on things too, right? These people at the farmers market and the people that do the vendors. This year, we normally have 60 vendors at Railroad Days. We have 92 vendors at Railroad Days. And, you know, the hairs that I have left that are not gray are going to be gray by the end of it, because I don't know how I'm going to label the booths for everybody on the road without putting paint down everywhere. That'll be there for a year. And there's just lots of concerns I have moving forward. And I think more people that know about it from a macro perspective, I'm talking the entire school district boundaries, not just the city of Grand Falls, the more we can get people involved in it. And, you know, I already tried to push Josh off because Linda Hall was once the president of the chamber, but he gave me his quintessential smile. Anything, and I understand why. I mean, I've just been doing this since January, and you know, David Griggs, one of our council members, stepped up and did show and shine. We normally have 150 cars. We had almost 300 cars this year. We had to close down the road all the way past the father's house. So the demand for these events is huge, but there just isn't anybody to run. So that's kind of where I'm at. I appreciate Robert putting me on the agenda. I got to run to the council meeting right now and get ready for my meeting. But you know, it's one of the things that is a bummer is that we have our meetings on the same night. But I also want to get a joint meeting together at some point in the near future too, because I think it's a good time for us to connect now that everybody's getting back together. We're not wearing masks everywhere. We can actually kind of, you know, partner up with the planning commission and the city council and get some input from you guys on what you guys want to see in the community moving forward. We got lots of stuff going. So, and if you guys want an update later on, I'm more than willing to come and talk to you about Linga Street extension or the wastewater treatment plant upgrade, you know, where sewer and water rates are going to go, because that's going to have an effect on the schools. So I'm available for those types of things too, if you guys need somebody on the agenda. It's just going to have to be quick because I got a meeting right after. So.
I know he doesn't have much time. Any questions?
Yeah, if you guys have any questions, shoot.
What are the requirements to serve on the committee?
A pulse.
Okay.
So you don't need to run or own a business or anything?
No, and I noticed this years ago. You know, I was born and raised in Lake Stevens, and I remember there was a point in time when the city of Lake Stevens was only 6,000 in population, and they couldn't find anybody to run the chamber, and it was the police chief, Randy Slory, was the president of the chamber. He had, you know, business in town, but he did a great job. And I think the only requirement is that you're passionate about your community, you know, and you want to do the right thing, and realize that when people step up to these things, they are very thankless jobs, and any of you guys have done it know it. You know, like, you don't get people patting you on the back, you get the people complaining about why you did something wrong. And that's the hard part is, you know, having the tolerance level to say, hey, I know I'm doing the right thing, even though I'm getting beat up by people. And, you know, I talked to Josh Von Jensen about it because he did it for a couple of years, and it was a struggle through the pandemic, you know, and nobody wanted to help. I remember at Railroad Days 2019, you know, there wasn't really anybody there to clean up. So now we've got a cleanup crew this year. Little things like that. And I think that's a big deal. But, you know, more than welcome to, you know, bring any of you on board, even if you just want to be a member but don't want to be on the board, you know, but you're interested in one particular event. I know Laura here at the school district, she loves Halloween, right? So we're letting the old city hall, they're going to convert it to a haunted house this year for Halloween.
Wow.
And that'll be really cool, you know, and everybody's super excited about that. So we've got a whole committee for Halloween because we've got people that are passionate about Halloween. They want nothing to do with Show and Shine and Railroad Days, right?
Yeah. I have one quick question for you. Is there anything you guys need now with Railroad Days so close? I know I got a contact by Catherine Anderson. She was doing kind of all call for help. We're going to help out, but is there any other holes that you need right now?
We had a meeting yesterday, and those of you that know Catherine, it was an hour and a half long and very, very micro to the detail, every single thing all the way through. And she's done a great job of coordinating it. But there's still going to be flies in the ointment. And I think more people are there in the morning, maybe, if you want to contact Catherine. She says she's got enough volunteers, but we may or may not need some more to work certain shifts. I would love it if somebody could sit even for an hour at the chamber booth, because right now she's got the mayor scheduled to sit there from 9 to 1 and me sitting there from 1 to 4. And I don't think I've ever sat in the same spot for 3 hours in my life. And we'll be selling sweatshirts and stuff there. There'll be like a square card we're going to try to get with an iPad. So because nobody has cash anymore, we found that out at Show and Shine. And I think just volunteering to take some time in the different booths, if anybody's interested in doing that, that would be great. She's got quite a few, but in my opinion, we don't have enough volunteers yet for that. And it's going to be, for those of you that don't know, it's a totally different event than we've had in the past. For one, there's no carnival. There's only 2 carnivals on the West Coast now. There used to be 3. And the third one, they used to do an event up in Anacortes right before railroad days. So they would just come down and do ours before they left. But for the most part, all the money's down in Arizona and Southern California, where the weather's nicer in October. So they just laugh now if you say, I want to have a carnival in October. Which brings up another subject, which is anybody interested in changing the date of railroad days and making it a little sooner in the year? The mayor's really passionate about that. So those are the kind of things that I think a strong chamber, those things they need to take on. And those are questions I can't answer because I don't speak to the whole community.
Got it.
I have one last question. So for those interested, requirements is to have a pulse. But also what are the expectations? Like how many meetings are there? Like, in case people are going to want to know, when do I have to meet? How often do I have to meet?
The way it used to be structured is they would try to have 1 meeting a month and hopefully have a speaker at the meeting. And the idea behind, most of your mission statements for chambers are that they want it to be, bringing the businesses together. What kind of things can you do to help the businesses? Yeah, maybe somebody speak that was, can help local businesses with certain types of things. Like I had a guy come in today with credit card processing, and instead of being 3.7% or whatever Square charges, he was like 1.9. Maybe you have somebody like that come and speak about the different ways you can process credit cards now because small businesses are doing that so much. I think those types of things, but typically it's 1 meeting a month. And then the big thing is 3 events, Show and Shine, Railroad Days, and the Halloween event. There's also the Christmas tree lighting, but the museum typically handles that. And but that might be something. We did a vendor holiday bazaar in 2019. I'm getting a lot of vendors that want to do that again this year as part of the chamber, which dovetailed into the Christmas tree lighting. So basically have 4 events, but I can go back in time 20 years and think of, newsletters I read where, they were doing all kinds of different stuff. They used to have art in the park. They used to have movie night out at the baseball fields, when Cecil was here, and Tricia brought him. So it's kind of an open canvas at this point on what people want to do. It's kind of like it's been shut down for 2 years. So
do you have some sort of collateral or like digital collateral, right, that you could share with the board that we could even share across maybe social media platforms within the community? Because within the community, there is the Granite Falls Community Connection. You could plaster it on there once a week or once every few days for a little while. But then there's also separate community pages, right? There's going to be all the developments have their own community page as well, which they might pay a little bit closer attention to.
Like HOAs.
So we can post in there as well with just similar things. So, right, meeting 1 time a month, right? Are you passionate about, driving change within the community? Hopefully just reach a few more eyes.
Yeah, I could drive something like that up. The website we have right now is great. Tanner actually put it together a few years back. He doesn't live in town anymore, but it's a great site. And that's the other thing too, is if anybody knows anybody with web design experience that wants to manage the site, I'm kind of half-heartedly doing it, and I don't want to screw anything up at this point because it's a nice site and I think it can be added to. But the routine maintenance of it, some people that want to volunteer to do those kind of things too.
Okay.
Because you're right on the social media side of it. Those of you that know me, I try to stay away from it because my blood pressure goes to the roof. It is the best way to contact people, get the word out. So, but I appreciate your time, guys. I just wanted to come and kind of throw it out.
Yeah, I know you got a meeting. Thanks so much, Brent. Appreciate you.
Thank you very much.
Good to see all of you.
Thank you.
Take care, guys. We'll see you.
All right, moving on to item 2B on the agenda, board comments. Dr. Butler.
For sake of brevity, got nothing tonight.
Dr. Ledoux.
So This will be my, a reminder. I'll throw one of these out there every once in a while. To the community in particular, right? Just make sure that your voices are heard. Once again, I'll notice this just in passing, which is why I bring this up, is when I go pick up my daughter from school or when I'm picking up my son from football practice, I'll haphazardly hear conversations of parents saying like, well, I'm not going to bring it up because nobody's going to do anything. Please don't take that approach. Please reach out to admins, front desk, email us directly. That's what we're here for. We're here to help. So that's my plea. If we can't directly help, then we'll be able to point you to who can. But I really don't want there to be this overwhelming feeling of, you know, like lost cause syndrome and nobody reaching out to actually resolve problems that they're seeing within the district. And then on top of that, actually, another comment that I wanted to bring is just reiterate, you know, what Brent said. I implore anybody that is willing and able, please expand your horizons and get involved because, you know, to his point, these events aren't going to be events. Nobody's there to run them. And we have many people, you know, across the school board, the chamber, you know, they're trying to build the Chamber of Commerce back more, but that are volunteering time and really trying to make sure that this community is growing stronger. And so I would really implore, if you're not involved and you have the ability and you feel like you could bring something special, whether it be from a design aspect, labor aspect, something, just, you know, please jump in there to make sure that these activities still can continue. That's it.
Thank you, Director Ledoux. Great comments. Director Kincaid?
Yeah, I have a little bit to say today, and forgive me because I wrote it all down because sometimes my brain and my mouth don't cooperate with each other. So bear with me for a second. And a little bit during board reports, I will elaborate further on my Our Story project. But I just wanted to center my comments today on a comment I received based on those that's been bothering me a little bit. And it wasn't a negative comment. In fact, I've received some of the most amazing feedback on this project. But the comment I received was that this person was so glad that I was doing this project, especially highlighting board members, because they don't really know us. They felt that we weren't very approachable and somewhat intimidating. And this comment broke my heart. In my mind, and I can only speak for myself, but that is not how I wish to be viewed. I'm no better nor more important than anyone else. So shame on us if we give off an air that we are unapproachable or intimidating. I am Carly Kincaid, school board member, yes, but I'm also a member of this Granite Falls community. I live in the woods in a double wide mobile home. My youngest vehicle is 14 years old. I shop at Walmart and use coupons and live for a good deal. Outside of school, my children are probably dirty from running through the woods on adventures with their dogs or poking around in the creek to see if any fish are running through. My children do not have cell phones or tablets. Their bedrooms are almost always a mess. They're a bit wild and wacky, but they are also respectful and honest. My husband fells trees and works in tree service for a living, so he too is almost always dirty or covered in tree sap or pine needles or wood shavings. You see, we're a pretty darn normal, blue-collar, working-class, a little bit redneck family. I am no better than anyone else, and I hope that no one feels that they can't approach me. All that being said, I want to talk a minute about my jobs and my roles. Right now, I'm a school board member. I take great pride in that. I worked hard, and I earned this role by the vote of my community, who I love so much. When I am a school board member, I am a school board member. I'm also a substitute teacher, and I worked really hard on that as well. I'm certified to substitute teach in 5 different school districts in this county. When I am in the classroom, I am a substitute teacher and only a substitute teacher. I'm also attending grad school, working hard on my master's degree, and I'm set to graduate this spring, earning my MAT in elementary education. Late at night when I'm working on lesson plans and papers about behavioral management, reading fluency, or I'm observing a classroom for my practicums, I am a student and only a student. I have many other roles. I'm a crafter, outdoor enthusiast, animal lover, wife to my amazing husband. But the one role that I take the most seriously is that of a mother. When I mother hard. If my child is hurting or upset or something is wrong, I go to bat for them and I fight for them with every ounce of my being. I mother unapologetically and with ferocity. Recently, my daughter was hurting. It was a hurt that was unfamiliar to me, and I won't go into specifics, but I went onto my private Facebook page looking for some advice on how to proceed. I'm a mother, but I don't pretend to know how to mother in every situation. So anyway, I described my situation and asked how to proceed. It didn't occur to me, however, what my description might look like to those who don't know me as a mother. They don't know how I mother, that it might be a little off-putting and what you don't expect out of a school board member or a teacher. You see, in that moment, I was only a mother. While I always believe in being transparent, my emotions are on my sleeve and I fight for what is right, and I never apologize for how I mother. I do understand how my choice of words might upset some people. You see, I'm a human being, just like all of you, and I do make mistakes sometimes. I realize that when people look at me, they might know me as only one of my other roles and not the mama bear role. I will take pause in future to make sure I have chosen my words appropriately. I only hope that you take what I've said tonight and realize that I am human, I work hard, I love hard, and I mother hard. And most importantly, I do make mistakes. So I hope that through my Our Story project and just our presence in the community, you realize that we board members are not much different than you. We're all here, or should all be here, for the sake of the children in this community. I vow to work harder to make sure that you are never apprehensive about approaching me, because we are in this together. We are family.
Congratulations to your upcoming graduation.
Thank you.
Hard work. Well done. Good luck.
I don't have any.
That's okay. I've got a couple of things. First off, I want to thank Brent for coming and presenting on Railroad Days, and also just kind of echo kind of the sentiment that we kind of, if we like nice things, people have to step up to support nice things, right? And so, one of the things that I've kind of always jokingly said is that you always see kind of the same 10 or so faces in Granite when there's things to be done, or organizations or stuff like that, which is okay because those 10 people are passionate and they get things done. But man, it would be great to get, 5 or 10 more new faces and kind of involved. And so just want to echo the sentiment to kind of step up and get engaged. And thanks for saying that so well, Director Ledoux. Also, I guess I just wanted to just kind of speak from my heart real quick about kind of this year and as we move forward. This year, for the first time in a couple of years, to me, starts to feel like a normal year, right? We've had a couple of years of abnormal years, but this feels 95% like a typical year, which is a good thing. That's a refreshing feeling. But one of the things that I heard loud and clear from our community as a part of the levy that they did support was that it's been a long time, and there hasn't been a lot of educational academic outcome growth. And there was a kind of a sentiment of when is that growth going to happen? And students achieving at their absolute highest level and us giving them the tools as well as teachers to succeed is one of my greatest responsibilities, I think, for what I was elected to do in this role. But the time is now. We have to improve our educational outcomes, and it has to start now. We have to intensify our focus on educational outcomes, and it has to start now. We have to ensure that everyone is bought in first to the idea that we can do it and that our kids can do it, and that if we all dedicate ourselves to this common goal, that we can get there. I would put our wonderful students and our families in Granite up against any district in this world. You will never convince me that they can't achieve the we can't be destination district. I just don't believe it. And I think that potentially we all need to buy in a little bit more to it, because again, the time is now. It's been a long time. We all agree that we've lost some ground via COVID, and the excuses have gone to zero. So either we move forward collectively to this common goal, or something significant has to change. And I know that we've got a teacher and learning report coming up where we're going to talk about some of that stuff, but I am not willing to waste another day on that. And I'm not saying that it isn't a focus, but it is. So it's something that we need to be even more so focused on. So I'm willing to do whatever it takes, whatever is needed as a board member to support, to encourage, to provide those tools, those things that are needed to be able to get to that goal. But we got to do it. We got to get there. Our kids deserve it. Our parents deserve it. Our community deserves it. So I just want to make sure that buy-in is a focus for everybody, from people grooming our grounds to the tippity top, including the board and the superintendent. I just want to I want to make it known that this is going to be a constant topic as we move forward this year that I'm going to address. Where are we at with academic outcomes? What are we doing to improve academic outcomes? And what are we doing to increase buy-in to a common goal? So that's all I have. All right. Moving on. Item 2C, board survey results.
The Washington State School Directors Association, or WASDA, is holding those surveys, waiting for one more to be complete. So but we don't have them. So I would suggest we move this to our next meeting.
Okay.
I mean, full ownership. I know I've done mine. I mean, who hasn't?
We don't have to call anybody out, but
Is there a reason to call it out, Carl?
No,
That's what I'm
I've
like.
done it. But if you call me-
Yeah, like.
Well, and now they might all be done, but
Okay,
Oh, okay.
they're
I did mine like.
building it and now
I
they
did
don't.
too.
But
Yeah.
I know we all, that's why I'm confused about, I wonder if there's like a glitch. I mean,
Yeah.
They gave the nicknames of what each of you created, and there was only 4 of them. So
so
And who fills it out? It's just board and superintendent, I believe, right? Or yeah, okay. Because I thought, didn't we have Linda? Didn't Linda fill? I don't remember. Anyway.
how do we check, like, I mean, I know I did mine. How do we check, see if it went through?
Yeah.
I mean, do we just talk to you about
yeah,
the,
we'll
okay, because if we all thought we did it, there's obviously a glitch somewhere.
Yeah.
So
okay.
maybe we'll get with Melanie, you can reach out to us individually.
And for those that are in via YouTube, so the board survey is a online WASD-based survey that board members take to kind of collectively discuss a number of topics related to, policy implementation, where we think collectively we're at, and it allows us to kind of identify some areas that we as a board need to focus on to make sure that we are effective leaders, because I believe effective organizations are led by effective leaders. So that's those results. And so we'll talk about that. We usually have a study session where we kind of go through them and can kind of focus on a couple too. So, okay. That was funny. Is there a reason, Carl, you don't want to? I said, don't call it out. You like specifically called me out. I appreciate
Well,
it.
you're acting like, well, but like, obviously, because we've all done it.
Yeah,
Glitch somewhere.
I've definitely done it.
I mean, I did them on my phone. I remember doing it. I remember submitting it.
I did the other day, what day I got it.
Yeah.
If I didn't like you so much, that would have offended me.
I think you also thought, okay.
I did. All right, so moving on to item 3A, field turf presentation presented by Mr. Kinsley, Mr. Maynor, and the field turf rep.
It's coming.
It's coming.
You say Kinsley or Nicely?
Oh, nicely. Sorry. Sorry, I should have looked up before I went there and.
It's all good.
Oh, yeah.
There's really not much on it. I got this. Filter. We have a presentation about filter, and instead of me, I did a lot of research in the last time. I'm sorry. Good afternoon, everyone. I just got a call from a football coach, so that kind of threw me off a little bit. I got a guest from Field Turf. I want to make sure that I heard you the last time we had met about this turf. So I wanted to make sure that I brought in someone who can answer all the questions about the field turf. So I am going to bring this gentleman up so he can speak on it. Sorry, Mr. Nicely's not here today. He had a procedure, but he is watching online. So
Thank you. Thanks for having me. My name's Greg Weisbrink. I'm a construction manager for Field Turf. I cover Washington, Arizona, and Alaska. I've been doing turf fields for over 30 some years. I've built the bases for them, been in an installation crew. I've done many of the things that you would expect for turf fields. And I was involved in the field that this was put in 15 years ago. So one of the things we kind of wanted to talk about, now that you know who I am, who Target Sports is. So Target Sports is the parent company of Field Turf. They're a company based out of Paris, France. They had purchased Field Turf in, I want to say 2008. And they're a $3 billion a year company. And why that's important to you is because if something does happen to your field after we put it in, we're going to stand behind it and we're going to be there for you. Challenge.
Oh, I turn the button on the side.
Excuse me.
A slider button.
Is the power on? Look at the side of the device.
Oh, got it. There you go. Okay, this is kind of shows you who the Target Sports family is. We own field turf. We do landscape turf, Grassmaster, which is a hybrid natural grass synthetic turf. We also have Target Sports Construction, where we build the bases. We do design build. We'll take your field from grass and turn it into turf. Light Sports, a track company that we purchased a few years ago. You're probably familiar with them. They've probably done most of the work on your track. Renner Sports, who does post-tension tennis courts. We have an indoor division and also wood flooring. One of the great things about Target Sports is we're vertically integrated. Everything we do in-house. We manufacture our own fiber. We ship it over from our plant in Germany. We do the tufting of the fiber in our plant in Georgia. We ship it out and we install it with our own crews. That's the most important takeaway there. There's no middlemen. If something goes wrong, there's only one person to point a finger at. That's us. We also have the leading warranty in the business. It's a prepaid 8-year warranty, aggregate limit of 33 million. What does that mean to you again? It means that should something go wrong with your field, your warranty is paid up front, and if for some reason we were not to come in and take care of it, the warranty company would take care of it on its own. Again, back to the manufacturing, we control everything from start to finish, from manufacturing the fiber, tufting the fiber, quality control on the product before it leaves the plant, and put together in Atlanta at our plant and shipped out for installation. So financial stability, we're the inventor of the infield artificial turf system. We've been doing it for over 25 years, and as a division of the Target Group, we're backed by, $3 billion a year company with a bonding capacity of over $75 million a year. So again, numbers just sort of shows you who we are. But now the important stuff, Granite Falls High School. So we put this field in 15 years ago. It's been a great field for you guys for 15 years. And we were asked to come in and do an evaluation on the field, and we put together a proposal to replace the field. And the proposal to replace the field with the running track is $879,000. So you're probably wondering what's all included in that. So what we're proposing is that we do a recover on your field. And what a recover means is we don't remove the existing field that's there. What we do.
Oh, no, I think he's controlling it. Yeah.
Once again with the clicker. So what we do is we take and we cut 5 feet around the perimeter of the field. We remove that and we do an edge detail with aggregate to take it to the existing nailer. We level the existing field either with sand or any aggregate that might be required, so it meets the planarity requirements. And then we build the new field over the top of it. One of the things that that does for you, it saves you money because we're not removing and disposing of that existing field, but it also provides you with a pad underneath your new field, which you do not have now. So when you get to this point on your new field, you're not going to be up against the safety factor of a GMAX. So, okay, let's move on to the next slide here. That's just room right, field sweep equipment, should you guys require it. Again, just sort of talking about what I just talked about. On the track, I'll touch on the track also. So basically your running track's gonna get recoated and restriped as part of that proposal. So they would come in, they would, and I'm actually gonna add some surfacing on your long jump, triple jump runways, but repair high wear damaged areas, resurface the track, get you a new 5-year warranty on the track. Conceptual drawings of what the proposal looks like. There's one conceptual drawing with the running track, green field, one logo. Another conceptual drawing where we're doing black coaches boxes, black end zones. Again, center logo in a black circle. Orange end zones, orange coaches boxes, again, center logo. So the 3 that you just looked at right there, if you were just to do the field, your project cost would be, $571,000. We have a financing division that would actually finance that for you over 7 years. On this particular one would be $96,000 a year, and you would not have any upfront costs. Now, these are also some conceptual drawings where we've got alternating dial-lock panels. The track exchange zones are now a solid color as opposed to just triangles that you have painted out there now. Again, center logo. Same thing, only we're using the orange end zones, orange coaches boxes. And it really pops with the running track and the exchange zones. And then there was a request to possibly have an orange field. So that would be an orange field. You've got center logo, you've got end zone letters. That is a more expensive field than the others. So those ones we just looked at there, with the running track, you'd be looking at a project cost of $879,000 that would be financed over 8 years with an annual payment of $132,000. So you're probably asking, why do we need to replace the field? So I went out and walked the field before I came to the meeting tonight, and some of the things that jump out at me is, number one, your field's 15 years old. It is the oldest field in the state of Washington. Normally, we see fields last for 10 to 12 years. You guys have gotten 15 years, and that's a testament to the maintenance and the way you guys have taken care of it. So, but things that you look at as you go out and look at your 15-year-old field, if you stand on one end of the field and look down it, you no longer see the white lines on the field, the 5-yard lines. So what happens to a field over time is the fiber between UV wear, it will start out at 2.5 inches, which was what you had when we put this in 15 years ago. Right now you have about an 1.5 inches of fiber out there. And where the white lines are, you have even less than that. So when you look down that field, you don't see the white lines just disappear on you. And they're also shorter, so there's a little dip at each one of those white lines. And it's the same thing with your yellow soccer lines. We're starting to see that also. So you always got a safety concern there where people can actually trip in those areas. In July of 2021, we came in and we did some testing on the field, and it's called a GMAX test. What a GMAX test is it's a, how do I explain it? Anyway, what it explains is how hard your field is. And so when people fall on it, what is the impact of them falling on it? So a safe field is anything under 200 Gmax. Anything over 200 Gmax is now deemed unsafe and you cannot actually play on it. Your field, well, this kind of explains what I was just saying. It's more, you drop this thing, it's a cylinder on the field, it simulates a head falling on the field, and then you measure what that impact was. So when we did this in 2021, your numbers came up an average of 158, and your field is safe. The two numbers that kind of jump out at me on this is number 3 and number 7. Both of those are over 175. Whenever we start to see numbers that are at that 175 range, now we start to get a little concerned because it could very easily go from 175 up to 200 in a fairly rapid fashion. These are the areas where the GMAX was done. Just kind of showing you again, if I go back, area number 3 is the center, a 25-yard line, and then area number 7 is a 35-yard line out of bounds. But we're starting to see significant, wear and impact in those areas. And overall field photo of what your field looked like when we did this test, a year ago, a little over a year ago now. And then, so the recover, again, this kind of explains how the recover works. It's a patent that Field Turf has. So this is sort of like your existing field right here. You'll see your infill is kind of up and down a little bit. We'll do an inspection. We'll come in, we'll level all of that out before we would put the new field down on top of it. Field is leveled. Now we're ready to actually put the new field in. We put the new field over the top of the existing field. We infill it and adjust the edge, as I said. So this is where your existing turf gets cut, and then we bevel over to the edge. Very minimal slope to it. You probably wouldn't even know that it was there because you're taking an inch and a half over 5 feet. Reattach it to the nailer, and again, it's a patent pending is applied for on this. And why recover? You can save $80,000 on a removal replacement, and you're saving up to $120,000 for a removal and a new underlayment system. Most fields going in now are, because we've gone to a lot of organic infills, you do have to put an underlayment under those because they don't provide the same protection that the sand and rubber fields provide. So, and again, this shows you recovers that we've done. So here was a field that was installed in 2006. It was 12 years old. The average Gmax on the field was 161. The recover, after the recover, the new field Gmax at 120. And then another one at 2007, 11 years old, went down to 99. 2008, a 10-year-old that went down to 95. I'm guessing that one in 2006 may have had a high sand content, just because typically what we're seeing on the recover fields that we've done in this area is you're down right in that 100, 110 range. So that's sort of my pitch. I'd be More than happy to answer any questions.
Yeah, I'm curious, the recover, does that affect the longevity at all as compared to just the traditional rip and replace?
It does not. Now, having said that, the recover is fairly new technology.
Okay.
So, you know, I've only got a small sample to really go by, 5 or 6 years.
Right.
And we're not seeing anything that causes concern for that at all.
Okay. And then the two different proposals, at least the numerical portions of the proposals that you showed, when you were going through the different options of colored end zones or right, a blank track versus the multicolored track with the transition zones. Understanding that the entire orange field is a different price point than you probably alluded to, but all the other ones fall within the prices that you showed?
Yes, so let me go back to. So this estimated price of the 879,221, that's for the running track and the synthetic field. And it would not cover this particular one,
But the ones before it.
but it would cover this one.
So whether we want to do black end zone, orange end zone.
Exactly,
Okay.
exactly. So, and then the alternating dial-out panels, again, that's not an extra cost. So that would be what you would be getting for that price right there.
And then I know one of the questions last time, I'm going to forget, there was the something 200 and the something 300 surface.
Oh, right, on the running track.
I'm assuming this just provides the 200.
Yes, I believe this was the 200.
Okay. Yeah, and I was just going to ask from a perspective, you know, like the difference I know was about $100,000. Is if you're giving me like a 20-second elevator pitch on it, like what's the difference between the two other than what I'm about to see and hold?
So it's a difference between polyurethanes.
Yeah.
So the 200 is essentially a single component polyurethane. It's a sprayed on surface.
Okay.
And it's a sealed surface. The 300 is a 2-component polyurethane where you're actually squeegeeing that material out and then you're broadcasting rubber granules into it. The 300 surface is a real step up. Now you're getting into junior college stuff, collegiate type surface, but the longevity of that surface is probably twice what you're getting with a regular
200.
single component.
Really?
That's this one you're saying, the 300.
300 lasts twice as long.
The 300s, you're going to probably not have to do any work on that for twice the amount of time. So let's just say you're going to have to come back and respray your 200 surface in 7 years. You're probably not going to be doing anything to that 300 for 10 to 12 years. And I know that isn't double, but it's.
Out of curiosity, when the next time comes that we have to replace the field, are we gonna have to fully replace it because we've already done a cover?
That's a really good question. And we do not anticipate that you would have to remove 2 fields the next time.
Okay.
What we anticipate is that field, because the field that's being covered is not going to degrade. It has no sunlight. The only thing that it's got to do is it's going to have moisture passing through it. But our anticipation is that that field is going to remain there as a pad, and we're going to replace the top
Just
field.
take it out. Okay. Gotcha.
So I appreciate all the information. You did a really good job talking about the pros of resurfacing in the way that you're proposing, but there's got to be some cons, right? There's got to be something other than, it's always been my experience that you don't necessarily get to save money for the sake of just saving money. There's something you're giving up for saving that money. What is it?
We don't feel that you're really giving up anything. You're actually gaining something. And what you're gaining is a pad underneath your field. I really don't have any cons to it. And again, you know, we've been doing this for like 5 or 6 years. And we haven't seen any cons to this point.
Got it. So basically any turf field like this, you would, if you were proposing it, you would say, do this. You wouldn't say, oh no, in this situation, we need to rip and replace it.
Okay, so We do some testing on the fields to make sure that you're a candidate for it. And one of the first things is we want to make sure that the base that the field is built upon is going to be solid enough to, in other words, if your field has ripples in it and such, I'm not going to pitch a recover to you. If we go out there and look at it and go, no, you need to do something with the base underneath this field, I'm going to tell you to pull the field up, fix the base, put a new field down. Maybe the next time a recover would be a good option for you.
Got it. So I guess just to make sure I understand the transition from the field to the track that's going to have that, I guess, curve on it. That's not a trip hazard. That's
No,
not a.
it's a very subtle slope. Like I say, you're talking about making a taper over 5 feet of about 1.5 inches.
Got it. And I appreciate you presenting, talking about the difference in the 200 and the 300 and, the increase in lifespan. Is there something relative to the field turf that you pay a little more and you get an increase in lifespan or something along those lines? Obviously, you said a rip and replace isn't going to do it. Just out of curiosity, is there something else?
As far as
As far as kind of the difference in the 200 and 300, hey, this is a more robust thing. It's going to last 5 more years, pay this $100,000 more, and you're going to be assured to, not have to do the blank, for whatever.
well, so there's I go back and keep in mind, I'm a construction manager. I'm not a salesman.
Yeah.
So
Keep in mind, I am a salesman.
So when we were back here, right there. So you can get a 10-year warranty if you were to want to upgrade to our core system. So core is a fiber that's exclusive to field turf. It's monofilament fiber, and it's actually 2 fibers in one. It's a fiber and then a coating on top of that fiber. And it allows that fiber to stand up a little longer and also more longevity to the point where we're willing to do a 10-year warranty on it as opposed to an 8-year warranty.
So what do your warranties cover? Basically anything that happens to it, or I guess just talk me through that.
So the warranty basically covers the wear of the turf, the installation of the turf to start with. So if our installers come out, they build your field for you, and then a year down the road, you call us up and say, hey, we've got some hash marks that are coming up, or there's a seam that's come loose, we come and fix that.
For free.
Warranty. As far as the product itself,
Well, I just for free.
yes.
Okay, just wanted to clarify that. Okay.
That's covered under warranty.
Okay.
Now, if somebody comes out and vandalizes your field and you call us up, then we come out and it's like, well, no, this is vandalism. That's not covered under warranty.
Got it.
So, but wear and tear on the field is basically covered. You will. So obviously the field degrades over time. We've seen that in the 15 years that you've had your field out here. So one of the things, if all of a sudden fibers start falling out of your field to an extent to where maybe the coating isn't holding them in, that would be covered under warranty. Yeah, basically the manufactured product and the installation of the product.
How about raking, adding extra rubber, kinds of things that we do maintenance wise? Is any of that or?
So, well, there's 2 different ways. Okay, so there's normal maintenance, which is going to be part of what you have to do as an owner. So as an example, soccer penalty kicks. One of the highest wear areas on a field, because there's nothing more fun for a coach than come out and kick penalty kicks. So as you do that, if you kick all of the infill out of that penalty kick and you don't put it back in, you can eventually kick the penalty kick mark out. So Normal maintenance, we will train you on that. You'll have to take care of that yourself. If a couple, 2, 3, 5 years down the road, we come out and you say, hey, it looks like the infill is really low on this. And we come out and we measure it and the infill is in fact low, we would top that off.
Free.
Yes.
I like that word, free.
Yeah, well, because it's our job to get it where it needs to be at the installation.
Yeah.
So typically what we will do is we want 3/4 of an inch of fiber showing. And we'll probably fill it to where you've got 1/2 inch of fiber showing, knowing that there's gonna be a little settlement over the first year or so after it gets played on, so that we can maintain that 3/4 inch for the life of the field.
So is the maintenance, like the amount of maintenance, or I guess that task is for both fields, is it the same or is it less with the core system?
No, maintenance is the same on all the fields.
Okay, got it. And so without that core system, you said it's a 5-year warranty or
8 years.
8 years? Okay, so you get 2 more years.
You get 2 more years with the core.
So big question, what's the difference? I mean, in price, order of magnitude, if you know it or whatever.
I would defer to the salesman, but I want to say 50 to 70 cents a square foot.
More.
Yeah.
Got it. And I imagine, which we don't have a quote on that, Mr. May.
No,
Okay.
no, I don't think we really hadn't even discussed core until right now.
Okay, so now a couple more hard questions, sorry. Did you guys do Sultan? The Sultan School?
Just recently.
Yes. Oh, okay.
And can I explain why?
Yes, please.
We didn't have capacity. So we have had the largest year ever coming out of COVID. So we have the capacity of doing basically 40 million square feet a year. And then we have a certain amount that we've always kept in reserve, just in case we exceed that. By May of this year, we had burned through all of our fiber and our reserve fiber. We did not have the capacity to do any more fields.
What, do you know what company did that? Just out of curiosity? Or-
I don't write off.
Okay. So I guess the hard question I was going to ask is, because obviously everything's public, I pulled up how much they paid and it's significantly cheaper. I mean, I don't know what they did or what they did, so I'm comparing. What?
I can answer that question.
Oh, go ahead, please.
I did call Sultan, and Sultan pretty much said that since they were in the line, they had to get their bill. They went with the cheapest company. It was a newer company, not in the area. I talked to their AD, who put me to their business manager, who put me to the director of projects. So they pretty much, and I asked them why was it $100,000 less than what we got proposed, and we said we went with the cheapest company, and we had went with the company that had to do it right there. Cancel after this. Most of that sequence was great to get it done.
Got it. So did we, I mean, you forgive me for asking, especially with this very nice man standing here, but did we get multiple bids on this?
We got a bid out of a company from Lake Stevens that does stuff locally. It was within $1,000. It was almost the exact same amount.
Okay. So last question, and I'm asking this specifically because you're not a salesman. If this was your field, if you were in my position, what would you do as far as the core, as far as the 200 and the 300? I mean, you see this stuff, you install it, you have experience with it. What would you do? By the way, you know you have a small town that's gonna yell at you. You spent $800,000 on the field?
No, I get it. I get it. If it was me, I'd go with that. I'd go with the proposal that we put forth, probably not the core, and the 200 system with the colored end zones. I think it fits really well for your school district and your needs.
Is there any other reasons? Just, I'm not asking you to go in it, but just, you know, it's cost, what I hear from you is it's cost effective, fits the needs, gets you down the road. That basically, I don't have the words in your mouth.
I think you're getting really good value.
Yeah.
And it is cost effective. It's not the lowest system out there. So like let's talk about the track real quick. So you've got a system below this that would be the 100 system. And that's basically where water goes, drains through the track. It doesn't sheet off the track. Tends to wear quicker. You need to respray it sooner. So you're getting into it at a lesser cost on the front end, but it's going to cost you more over the length of ownership. 200, you're going to get more value out of your 200 over the length of ownership than that. But you don't need to go to a 300 because you're not a junior college or a college, if that makes sense.
It does, yeah.
I just don't know that's bringing real value to the community here as opposed to, you know, if you were a junior college, I'd be pitching the 300 to you all day.
Yeah. Okay, are you, Mr. Maynard, I know you've got other stuff to talk about, results of the survey, stuff like that.
Yeah, voice to the community.
Okay, please.
All right, to end with the survey, I have, our board requested the survey, and with the survey, I hope everybody in this room filled it out. About 3 weeks ago, we had 334 responses. And we had 181 responses for the similar turf, the turf that we have now, the turf that you see. And we had 152 responses for the new highlighted orange turf. That was the voice of our community.
So almost 50-50.
Almost 50-50.
So just to be clear, the first one was for what I'm looking at right now, or
Just the green.
or just the green?
Just the green.
Is that just the green or is that?
No, it was not this one, it was just the green.
Yeah, okay.
So this is.
I would consider this just the green though. I mean,
Yeah.
that's, yeah.
So,
But it could be a good midway point,
Yeah.
right?
our community, I mean, pretty much, I heard their voice. We also put it out to students. And after the students, we had probably 100 students respond, you know, so it was pretty awesome. I'm glad that it was suggested that we did a survey. So other than that, I just kind of want to give some thank yous to the board, Dr. Middleton. I know that Dion is kind of quiet in the background, but he actually really played a major part in this with meeting the turf and getting the GMAX tested. So I want to give him definitely some accolades, and Marshall as well. Also, John in our community. The last thing I kind of want to hit on the academic outcomes that you said, Carl, about this year. Our goals, I know it's kind of like off topic, but I had to say something about that. So, yes. And as an administrative team, we have been talking about and focused on learning and teaching in all buildings. And we're moving today with Dr. Middleton, bringing the focus to student growth and student academics in our community. I think that school is a place of learning and growth. And sometimes I think we've lost that vision as COVID has hit us, or admin has left and admin has come in. So I think that there's 4 things that we have as a community, as an admin team in our admin retreat have focused on. So yes, you're gonna push that academic learning, and as administrators and our whole team, we want you to. So we actually want you to be in the buildings and see what we're doing as far as teaching and learning. I believe that for the high school, and I can only speak for the high school, that we have to have students in the seat to help them grow. So we're aggressive on attendance, thanks to our attendance board. We're also aggressive as our administrative team on effective teaching and leadership. And I think that's what's going to help our students grow. And I'm proud to have one of my students sitting up there right now. So also, I think that we have to have all our adults, whether it's from custodial and whether it's from our director of operations behind me, walking in the building, believing that all our students can grow academically. So anybody that walks in our building, if they don't believe that, they shouldn't be in our building. So that's one thing that our leadership team is focusing on. Also focusing on preaching the right message on things that we have to do, we must do, as far as assessment, maps, SBAC, and things like that. So I appreciate you pushing us, but definitely that's on the forefront of us. All right, thank you.
So Marshall, are you going to present on like how we're going to pay or now or okay?
Well, I sent you guys out,
And thank you too for presenting.
Thank you.
so I kind of sent this to you, I don't know, 10 o'clock this morning or so. I hope you guys had a chance to look at it, because I'd kind of like to just breeze through it a little bit. What I'm recommending is that we issue an LGO bond. So an LGO is a different kind of bond that doesn't have to be voted on by the community. What we have the authority to issue a bond in the amount of 3/8 of 1% of our total assessed value in the community, which currently is $2.6 million. So we can very easily request a bond for $900,000. A little bit here, I'm sure you guys looked through this. I gave 3 options of different kinds of LGO bonds that we could request. One is tax exempt, which is typically the bonding company will go out to, I think they have a network of 40 local banks that they'll request a bid on. And the current rate for that is around 4.25%. So it's a really, really, really good rate.
Did that go up today?
I don't know if we're up today. By the time we do this, it'll likely be higher, but every financing option we have will be higher as well. The highlights of this is it's a tax exempt bond purchased by a local bank. There's a $900,000 cost, what I just costed out the turf project to be. This requires a $35,000 bond fee. There'd be 8 payments, a 4-year term at 4.25% interest, and our total service debt would be $1,026,000 on a principal of $935,000. Second option is called a taxable LGO bond, and that is Snohomish County will buy those from us. And there's a lot less work done on that on our end and on the bonding agency's end. So the fees are less. The interest rate is a little higher, but the total cost of the 4-year bond is very similar. It's $6,000 more. Everything else is essentially the same. Third option is stretching it out 1 more year, and that would be through the tax exempt bond, which is the one that we got to the banks. Interest rate's the same. Interest rate would be the same all the way up to about 10 years, and then the interest rate would change. But this is a 5-year option. Annual payment, $210,000. Total cost, $1,047,000. So by stretching out an extra year, it costs us about an extra $20,000, but the payments are $50,000 less per year. Some key points is that the interest rate is really low by going with an LGO bond. It's in the 4 to 5.25 range. Principal can be paid out of capital projects, general fund, or state forest revenue. Interest has to be paid out of the general fund or state forest revenue. You can get longer terms for the tax exempt, the bank bond, and a lower interest rate, but the fees are greater. The taxable bond that would sell to the county is a much simpler process. It's a little bit higher interest rate. It has to be a little bit shorter term. 4 years is the max they'll do for that. There's less fees. There's really, when you calculate the fees into the mix, there's really no difference in the cost of the tax exempt versus the taxable bond. And this year we received $250,000 in state forest funds into our debt services fund. We received a similar amount last year. So essentially, the forecast would be that the state forest money will be able to pay for the entire project, and we wouldn't have to come out of our capital projects fund at all. We'd have to come out of our general fund. We'd be able to use it all in state forest money. So my recommendation would be just to issue a 4-year LGO bond to the county and let the minimal amount of work, really easy process to make the payments. And the cost is, I think, $250,000 a year for 4 years. And we then have, 8 years of life left, probably 8 to 10 years of life left in the field after it's all paid off.
So so that's option 2.
Yeah.
Okay. And why does that work better than option 1? Again,
Well, it's a slight difference in total cost of $6,000, but it's a much simpler process to get through. And it's a simpler payment method. It's partnering with the county. All the money stays local. It's just I think it's a better process. And we'd be partnering with DA Davidson. DA Davidson helped me a lot with this presentation, pulling all the numbers, getting the rates, understanding what the likely rates would be when they went out to bid to the banks, what the county will pay. And we work with the county on a lot of stuff already. So I have a good relationship with the REEF at the county treasurer's office. So it would just be for the cost of $6,000 over 4 years, the savings and time and convenience and keeping it local, all those things would be, I think, a benefit.
So it's a lower overhead option than
Right.
option 1.
Right.
Then it's done in 4 years instead of.
Well, option 1 is also 4 years, but
Oh, is it?
option 3 is 5 years.
Yeah, it's our, yeah. All looks so similar.
Yeah.
I was looking at 3 when I said that, sorry.
any other questions, board, of Mr. Maynor?
We're going to discuss this under new business, right?
We are, yeah,
Yeah, so just questions about what they're presenting.
exactly.
I guess my question I have is, we're going to discuss it amongst ourselves, but I want to know, so your preference is taxable 4-year. Mr. Maynor, your preference on field. I know the community is, close. What is your preference? I mean, your opinion matters too. I mean,
The company, I can tell you what I voted for. I voted for the orange deal.
Okay.
Yeah, that was my preference. Up to me.
Yeah.
Correct me if I'm wrong, but based on seeing the results before the students voted and after the students voted, it was probably 70-30 in favor of the green field for the community and 70-30 in favor of the orange field for the
That's what I
students.
was just gonna ask.
Yeah.
We had a big push.
It's the only here might have a preference. No pressure. Welcome to the board.
I had some of my peers come up to me when we were talking about the color of the field. The only thing that we were concerned about was the black turf. If it was going to get too hot, like during the summer.
The black. Oh, you mean like?
Yeah.
Blacked out, 'cause
Yeah, it's just orange. Okay.
I'll ask one point of clarification too, just because the orange field does have an additional cost to it. If I recall from the initial proposal, it was somewhere in the $50,000 to $70,000.
yeah, it was less than 5% of it was 47,000, I think.
The only part that, like, for me, is trying to be a good financial steward as well. Yes, that could have the potential to drive more attendance and drive more interest, but correct me if I'm wrong, we'll get more entry fees, we'll get more concessions, but that goes towards ASB. right?
So it's part of this business.
Right, so it'd go back to ASB, but effectively the money that's coming out of capital funds extra to cover that couldn't be recouped technically.
Forest funds.
Forest capital,
Yeah, forest is like it's extra money we get for the logging in our area.
right, but
Yeah.
but there's not a way to, it's not like,
It's not recoupable, yeah.
right, so that,
But it's not
that's,
taken away from like roofs and stuff.
no, so that's where I kind of brought up, and I know
Yeah.
we'll discuss it, but I
Yeah.
do like seeing the orange end zones as orange end zones, and then the black track with orange as like a good middle ground to make hopefully everybody happy, but we can,
Yeah.
So Marshall, I just have one more
Yeah.
personally. So I know, saw you note that we can pay for those payments hopefully via state forest revenue. Who knows what future legislation does with, our access to those funds and what happens. But do you feel confident that we can maintain our goal of a 5% fund balance by the end of this year by doing this?
Yes. The nice thing is that we'll be going into, before we even make our first payment on an LGO bond, we'll have a minimum of $300,000 of state forest money in reserve. And it'll probably be more like $500,000 in state forest money, because we'll have all of next year's. We likely won't be doing this just because of the seasons, probably until next summer. So we wouldn't have to be making payments on the bond for quite a while. And then we'll have a nice little reserve of state forest money already sitting there that we can use for it.
Okay.
So probably close to half of the total cost will be in reserve already.
So real quick, so are we not doing it this winter then? Because our last meeting, we talked about doing during the winter. Did that change?
So they can't do the track until the spring
Okay,
or summer, even summer. So
they need better weather for the track.
yeah,
Both will be done this summer? or-
that's what we were thinking we would do,
Okay.
rather than do part of it in the winter and then part of it in the summer.
That's a change, right? Am I remembering
No,
wrong?
you're right.
Okay, I mean, I am crazy, just to make sure I'm not so crazy.
And go ahead.
Oh, I was just gonna ask, and this might be a stupid question because I'm not a numbers person, but if for some reason we have like a whole bunch of this forest money and we decide we want to throw it all at it, is there any early payoff penalties that we would face?
Not that I'm aware of.
That's a great
That's
question.
I'll ask my question.
Good question.
Okay.
Yeah.
One last one for you, Mr. Maynard. So what are we going to do? I know we had a conversation about locking the field and potentially what that looks like and potentially having a security guard check on it. So what are we going to do to protect it?
Hours. Access. But we also need to make sure we lock it at a certain point in time. I want to say every night. So unfortunately, who does that is the same guy who pretty much gets to the alarms or the open door and shut. So I don't want to put that pressure on him, but we need to make sure that we invest this much money as we take care of our product.
Okay.
So, I'm willing to help block it too. You'll use me. Give you on a break.
Chair, I have a question.
Oh, yes, please. Dr.
I just want to ask about the track again. You're saying, junior colleges. I know this isn't, does this draw more competition than this? And I ask, I'll ask with some context. We put this in with field turf probably 15 years ago at a school in Montana. And we became a destination school. Everyone wanted to play on our field. We were one of the first ones to have turf. And then we had a 10-lane track with this quality. So state track meets all came here. So does this help us become a destination, or does it really matter?
Yes, it does, to a point. You're going to be elevated above 75% of the tracks probably in the state. There aren't that many high schools that I'm aware of in the state of Washington that have gone to the full over 300 system.
There's none, no high school in the state of Washington.
How much? How much is 200?
But we also host by districts.
Yeah, I'm interested in the 2-year warranty, 2 more years.
We host a lot of,
Yeah, I'm like, why are we talking about 2-year warranty?
yeah, a lot of people want
That
to
I'm
come to
interested in.
Granite Falls and cross-country meets and, track meets and.
But we were the little town next to Billings.
Yeah.
Of about the same size district. Billings is drawing everybody, but as soon as we did this and field turf, they came to us. So.
Yeah.
just-
And it's a good question. I think you provided from Insight is one would be in the top 25 percentile in terms of quality of product on the field. I would venture, I guess, is to say under 1A school standards, we'd be well above the 25 percentile. Venture to say probably top 5.
Well, like you said, there isn't a high school in the state that has a 300 system.
And that was the research that I got. And there's other schools, and I know maybe a few, I know Dion, there's other schools that are going have called and reached out about our stadium. Who built our stadium, who built our field is very attractive. They really want to be like Granite Falls. So there's a couple school districts have called in the last 3 months. I think I want to say Meridian called, who did everything. And I don't know because I wasn't here, so I kind of give them to Dion or somebody who was here before and know. So we have the foundation here.
And it's been about 5 or 6 schools want to mimic what we have right now. And we're trying to change. So imagine if we did something like that. I mean, everybody wants to be like Granite Falls. So they want architects, they want blueprints, they want to look just like what we have exactly right now.
And I can speak to that. The Youth Football Association in the region, we were in the running to host the Jamboree, which is several thousand players and everything. Just because of the levy issue we had, they took us out of the running just in case we didn't pass. But I mean, next year they're going to want to talk to us because we have these.
All right, board, any other questions? Obviously, we'll talk more about this in new business, but any other questions for the presenters? Okay.
Thank you.
I really appreciate all the information. Only thing I'll say, just closing, if we can keep the different pictures, maybe they want to see the different options from the presentation for later on. Yeah. Okay, moving on to item 3B, teaching and learning report. Dr. Mans, I heard you're going to actually present something, right?
Good evening. I am here today to talk about the children in our community. And I have to say, I was delighted to see you walk in, Ava. I've watched Ava through the years. I was principal at the elementary school when she was just so little. And watching her grow and thrive, and I'm so proud of you being here on, representing your school on the school board. Our job is to serve our children and our families. And that's what this report is about. We have really great children. And I so appreciated your opening comments, Director Carey. We must attain what's possible for these kids. And so it's every day moving toward that goal. And I would envision by the end of the year, we would see significant gains for our kids. But it takes efforts. And I'm going to talk a little bit about what we're doing in our district. And I would ask and encourage you as the board directors, as our leaders, to continue to push on this because our children deserve it. That's why we're here, for them, for their future. And we want that future to be just open as wide as possible for all those choices. So as I get started, I'm going to start with the first slide in a moment. I wanted to talk just a moment about leadership, and then I'm going to talk about some systems and structures because those are so important to have the systems, structures, and processes in place. and that really elevate practice in every classroom, because that's where learning happens. It happens in the classroom, and then all the other people around it are there to support. And so I wanted to acknowledge Dr. Middleton. We've done a lot of talking over the past months, and I'm just really thrilled how we are so focused on improving student learning in our district. And so we started in June. Mr. Maynard referenced it. We got together for a day and just really worked on setting the stage. And then another 4 days in the summer in August. And then again in September, we've calendared out for the year. And I'll talk more about this as it relates a little bit later, but 3 hours every month, which is a lot in the day of a principal, to get together in a team that is focused on student learning. And that's the focus, and that's the drive. And our president has shared right out to our group, to everybody in the room, this is where we're at. We are all in. If you're here, you're in. We're going to make this happen. And Dr. Middleton and I are in the process of setting up, we're going to meet with every principal and assistant principal this year. We're just setting up those meetings, so once a month with the team. And what we're doing is taking the work that I'll talk about today into the school, meeting together. We're looking at the plans. We're monitoring progress together. We're celebrating successes. We're looking at where supports are warranted. What is it that we can do as a system to ensure that the schools are moving forward? And then that is also part of, obviously, of the principal's evaluation and growth plans. But the intent is that no school is left on its own, that even our superintendent is taking the time, and then we're aligning because we're there together meeting with them. And so I'm going to walk through some of the systems, kind of framing the work, and there's more that I could say about any topic. I'm going to touch the highlights, and if you're interested in more at any point, I'd be happy to go back tonight or at another point in time. This diagram shows you the frame that we use for supporting students, and I want to just acknowledge the words around the outside are just a little bit light. So I have define, analyze, implement, evaluate. So it's really that continuous cycle. And I think all of us, no matter what we do in life, we instinctively have a cycle if we're moving forward. It happens in athletics. It happens in community service. It happens in different types of jobs, for sure, in medicine. We're always setting goals. We're bringing the research practice, the best work to it, and then we're monitoring and we're adjusting as we need to, and we're coming back around to evaluate. And so the next part of the diagram shows the areas that we focus on in school. And I'm going to spend time at the end touching upon the partnership with families, because that's foundational. We're here to serve the children, as I said at the start, and the families are the children's first teachers. And I so loved what you said, Director Kincaid, about strong mothering. We're here to partner with the families. And so what you see up here is in partnership with home, but we look at behavioral health, attendance, as Mr. Maynard said, they need to be in school engaged, academics, and then the social emotional. And then the staircase, that first green piece is looking at 80%. If we're doing our work well, 80% of the students should meet standard. That's where we should be. Now, if we're not achieving that, we need to really be working on that core. What do we need to do differently? What training is required? What materials are needed? And we're doing, universal support for all students. Now, that next tier up, typically around 20%, but shouldn't really be more if we're doing core well, might need some strategic support. And that's where you get some interventions in place. You're providing some extra help. I know our schools are looking at how can you free a few minutes between classes to get kids some intense support to close gaps. So you keep learning, but you're also closing gaps. And then at the top, that red one is a small population of intensive support. A student might even qualify for an individualized education plan, but there's some things that we do that are different, more dose, more learning, different timing, maybe some different approaches. But that shows you the frame. And then what we're doing as a team, and we'll continue this year, is look at all three areas, and they're all interrelated. So if children are misbehaving in school, a lot of times we can peel that back and say, someone who hasn't learned how to read well and is in middle school, or high school, or wherever it might be, that might be due to being embarrassed or not being able to access the content. And so teaching kids how to read well impacts behavior, and behavior and attendance, of course, impacts learning and so forth. But we're looking at how do we screen students first? Like, how do we check where they're at? Kind of like when you go to the doctor and they do some basic, take your blood pressure and your temperature. And then if we see something that's a little off, how do we diagnose? And then how do we prescribe? That's where, what are we doing in the core? What are we doing in the next level up? And then we're monitoring progress, similar to when you go to the doctor's office. If there's some sort of a plan for you, you're going to be checking in. How is it going? And then if intensive support is needed, you're moving up. But we're looking at those tools, and we're also looking at fidelity, because every child should get a quality experience. Doesn't matter who the teacher is, what part of the town they come from, which school they're in. It should be high quality. And if they've met benchmark, well, then we're looking at what's next. And we have children who are ready to stretch and reach those next levels. So that's a frame for the work that we do. And I'm sure Mr. Maynard could talk eloquently, if I invited him up here, about the work that they're doing with these steps at their school. And then we share it among our schools because we want to be aligned. One of the big things that we do in our district, and you're a huge part of this as our leaders, is our school improvement plans. Those are really the roadmap. And I always think about, if you want to get somewhere, let's say you wanted to go on a trip somewhere in the country, you don't just get in your car and drive and hope you get there. You have a plan if you want to get there efficiently and effectively, make sure you reach your destination. And the leadership teams create those at the schools. We're always building our teams to help them be stronger and better at that work. They create a plan for where they're going. They're choosing research-based strategies, and then they have data to monitor. We're not going to wait, and take a trip and then hope at the end we arrived. We're going to be checking, well, I'm at the right place. Similar to an analogy in sports. You're going to monitor yourself. How is it doing? You did a training today to get closer to your goal. And the data that we use, some of the pieces are here, and there's more, but we have the Smarter Balanced Assessment for reading, or ELA, English Language Arts, and then the Washington Comprehensive Assessment of Science. Smarter Balanced is ELA and math, and then the science. And those are annual at the end of the year in spring. And then we have iReady benchmarks for kindergarten and 8th, and special ed chose to use it at the high school. And then now we have the measures of academic progress, MAP, at grades 9 through 12. And those are done 3 times a year. And it's really important to do that 3 times a year, because when they come in, we want to know what happened over the summer. Some of them have accelerated. They've had opportunities. Some of them have, regressed, and we need to close some gaps. We want to find out where they are so that we can tailor the instruction to them. Just like going to the doctor, you don't want to just miss all the vital signs and then give them a prescription and hope it works. And then mid-year, we're checking in. So we made plans. Are we getting closer to our plans? And that's where Dr. M and I are sitting side by side with our administrators at each school saying, okay, each month, are you getting closer? We have those mid-year, but we have other measures at the school that help us track. So mid-year, are you getting closer? What do you adjust? And then the mid-year also helps us project for end of the year. And so, boy, if we're projecting their passing rate, if we're not, what are we going to do very quickly to get them to benchmark? And then the end of the year, of course, provides that closure of where are we for the year, helps us identify what summer school interventions might come in place. And embedded in here are professional learning communities. And I'll talk about that on the next slide. but it's a team that has to look at the data. It doesn't do any good to say to the teachers, oh, just go ahead and give the test. And then, okay, we're done. Cross that one off the list, you know, everyone be happy that you finished it. First of all, we need to make sure that everyone is engaging fully and getting the kids engaged, so it's real data. And then we also have to have the teams looking at the data, where the teachers are getting together, the principals and the teachers are getting together, and they're saying, what does it say? What can we learn from this? How are we going to use this information to get better? And that's the goal, that we are getting better and better. And then we present to the school board. And this will be important. We really, again, we so appreciate your leadership, but we'll come to you with all the plans and ask that you look those through and, you know, provide feedback. And then we will have annual or a report from every school throughout the year where they will, at whatever point they are, share with you how the work is going. So these are the goals I set. You know, you saw them earlier in the year. Here are the actions we took. Here's what the data says. And we realized, you know, we're doing really well here, and this is why, and we're going to keep doing this. We noticed some gaps here, and this is what we're going to do to adjust. And so that will be at various points during the year, but just as we did last year, we'll have a template for the principals, you know, a PowerPoint model for them, so that those important pieces are in there that they can share with you. And I have to say too, in this work, we're looking at overall proficiency. The kids should be getting to benchmark. If they're at benchmark, they should be going above. I mean, there's just no reason. If you're in school and you already know how to do everything, then we need to go next. We're also looking at growth. So if someone is, you know, really, we have highly capable students in our district, and we always pull that data out because we say, well, if you're already highly capable, we need to make sure you're actually making growth at the highly capable level. Because sometimes it just looks good if you're, you know, performing there. But for a student who might just be at the very, you know, for whatever reason at a lower level, then we're looking at that growth. Maybe you haven't met proficiency yet. You haven't met the benchmark, but you're making growth that's closing. You're not doing more than a year in a year, because we have to do more than a year if you're not at benchmark. Otherwise, you could always be behind. So we have to accelerate the learning. And we're looking at it by programs. So special education, we're looking at the multilingual, we're looking at free and reduced lunch, just making sure all socioeconomic levels, families have access. We're looking by race, by various cultural groups, and we are also looking at closing gaps. So if we have one group doing really well, that we have, like when we get down into the subgroups, we have a group that's underperforming, we have to figure out why. Why is it working for all these kids, but not for this group? So there may be some tailored things, some family engagement, some pieces that would come into place. So this is really, really important. And then we have had professional learning communities. We introduced them back in about 2013, 2014 at the elementary schools. And it's been shown to be one of the most effective ways to move student performance forward. This year, we really wanted to do a reset. We wanted to celebrate the good work that's happening and give everybody an opportunity to learn and develop their professional learning communities. Basically, that's a team of people who get together, and it's looking at the goals that they set, looking at the data, and they do this on a weekly basis when the students go home early on Wednesdays, and then say, okay, this is how the kids are performing. How did I teach? Oh, these kids did really well. I used this strategy. Let's use that in all of our third grade classrooms. And then if we have some gaps, what are we going to do about that? And really, the focus during that time and in that work is on learning. That's what it's about. Learning for students, but learning for staff. So if I'm a teacher and I'm in my team and my students are not performing at the level, not growing at the level the others are, well, that's my opportunity to say, oh, you're approaching it this way. You know, you have this research-based strategy. So we're there's a fidelity, like everybody gets the opportunity for high quality learning. And then as teachers are working there, customizing their, making sure to tweak their instruction so that it's powerful. We're building a collaborative culture. Like we have said in the past, these are all our children. They all are ours. And so it doesn't matter whether you teach calculus or algebra or science at the high school, they're all our children. And so we work together, we share strategies, and then the same thing comes up when the principals are working with teachers and all the administrators are working together. And the focus is on results. Because honestly, we talk about a lot of good things in school districts, but it's about student success. And even the field ties into that because it's the physical development of students, the core strengths and skills, the academic, the social emotional, the behavioral, the attendance. It's all about growing kids. I mean, that is our business. We focus on results and we have to be moving that forward. We have professional learning communities throughout our district. Oh, and I meant to share with you too on this picture. When I talked about the reset, we realized that we have people in various places. It's not unusual when you're, doing good work, you have a continuum. And so we chose, each principal chose one lead teacher to attend a conference with people from all over the country. And they came back saying, it was in Seattle, they came back saying it was the best conference they had ever attended. 3 days of seeing what works in schools and how they impact positive change. The principal and the teachers are the leads for the year, and they're going to continue that learning throughout the year. And then they go back to provide support for all of the teams at the school and also to bring challenges to help debrief and learn together. And then we also were able to bring in a presenter and did something sort of brave. We wanted to have a visual to all of our teachers that we're all in for all kids. And so we brought everybody into the gym in the high school and we worked with this person with this powerful message. And you could look around the room and say, oh, wow, like I hardly ever see him or her during the school year, but they're all in. And the principals were there. I remember Mr. Maynard, Mr. Nisley sitting there with your group and saying how important this is. And we're going to be doing this year. And then we did some breakout rooms in the teams. Okay, teams, we're going to be moving forward. So we have grade level teams at elementary, but we also have specialists get together, special education with content level teams at the secondary levels, the math teachers together and so forth. The administrative team is structured that way. And so we're going to continue to just push on the data. Like that's how we know where we're going. And then strengthening what I showed you at the beginning, the interventions, the screening, the diagnosis. The teaching and learning team does this as well. And then the form that you see there is a tool that Dr. M and I are going to be using with the administrators, principal and assistant principal of the school. It's really an evidence of impact, and it provides a way for us to sit with our team and go through and how are we doing. It's a structured approach. And at the end of the year, it's actually a piece of evidence for the administrators because they now, if we've all done our work well, they have an evidence of the success of their school, that these are the tactics, these are the steps that they took, and they've achieved the goals that were set. So I just wanted to share that with you as, one of the ways that we intend to support our teams. And then I'll go a little bit quicker during this part, but I talked before about the teacher. I mean, you think about it, there are resources, curriculum, there are assessments we talked about, and their instructional practices. That's just the interaction with teachers. That's what they go to school for, is to learn how to be effective teachers. And we use universal design for learning. So if you remember back to that tiered approach where there was that bottom level for at least 80% should be there, that's universal design. So every student has access. So we design it for the edges to ensure that everyone can move forward. So just to share with you, teachers who are new to our instructional framework in our district may have lots of years experience when they're coming to Granite. and are new to our framework, maybe haven't used it in another district, we have workshop sessions for them that are required. And then if they're in their first year, they attend lots of meetings and lots of support around them, and they have mentors who work with them. It's an all hands on deck. And then when they're in their second and third years, there's differentiated support. The meetings continue, and then we also look at what special supports do they need. And then for all staff, it's an expectation that our principals are serving as instructional coaches going into classrooms. And then we also have some coaching support. We're on learning blocks, especially when our substitutes are available. So that means we're going into classrooms to see other practice. If I know that a teacher is doing really well with this, I'm going to be able to go in and see it because it's going to be easier for me then to do that. And then our evaluation system, we like to think of it as a growth system. We're looking for growth every year. Even the best teachers are going to stay on that for the whole year, because even if you're at a high level, there's always somewhere else to go. So it's that ongoing continuous growth. And then we believe in leveraging technology. It reflects the world we're in, and it also supports student learning and deep learning, not just worksheets memorizing kind of thing. And so I just have a quick update from the Technology for Learning team. We can discuss this at another time in more detail, but we do have our plan. We are so thankful to our community for approving the levy, and we are being good stewards of every penny, and then still applying for grants to supplement so that we can just get help our students in the best way possible. So our display panels our projectors are aging. And so we are going to do a full scale replacement that's so visual for kids, and teachers can do the learning right up there in front of them. And then they'll all be the same model, which will help our tech team, which is always stretched, to be able to service. We purchased, I think I had it in a report in the spring, but we purchased a Juno system, which is an audio system. We were looking for what makes a difference, and research said if you can amplify the teacher's voice, it's one of the best correlations to student achievement. So every teacher now has a pendant, and that was a requirement to go through that training. And they are using that to amplify their voices. And now with the next round of funding, we're purchasing handheld mics at the elementary for every classroom, and then for some at the secondary as well, for the students who might not be heard. So we want to engage the kids, but they need to be heard by their peers. And they're excited. They're talking to some of the kids about that. They're looking forward to hearing their peers more easily. We continue to replace Chromebooks. We have enough for every student, but some break, and then they go offline, they become obsolete. So we're just always in that cycle of replacing and keeping track of everyone. Our team does a great job of inventorying every single Chromebook and condition of each, and ensuring that we're in good shape. And then applications. So we find like a Go Guardian application for safety for students and on the computer, or different programs that assist in the classroom and make learning more engaging. And then the infrastructure, always on top of the servers, making sure that all of that is working well. And then thank you to our community again for approving the levy that allows us to purchase curriculum. We're excited. We've launched the math. In my written report, I provided a little bit more information about English language arts, and the board approved an updated, more equity focused version of the English language arts for our youngest readers. And we have plans for the other content areas. Even when we're not adopting, we're bringing teams of teachers together to do the learning around the curriculum, and then be able to be ready to select, and along the way just enhance their practice. And I won't go, just for sake of time, I won't go into those details now, but I'd be happy to share those at any time. And then we've talked here before, and thank you to Director Butler for serving on, providing his leadership for our early learning team. We had a dream, and it's part of the board's strategic plan, but what would happen if every child had the opportunity to come to kindergarten ready to learn? and just to be at the kindergarten level. They've had the experiences that have allowed them to grow and be ready. And so we have community-based support, a number of organizations and volunteers in our community who meet once a month. Director Butler joins us as we have goals for 2026. We're looking at 100% readiness. And then we chunk away at that year after year. We have monthly goals, very action-oriented. It's always exciting to see we accomplish those. We're aligning tools, language, and approaches community-wide. So if you have an infant and you're getting care for diapers at the diaper bank, and then you maybe get some special support somewhere else, that we're using the same language and that we're a team, because it's so confusing. It can be confusing for families to have different providers, especially when some special needs might come up or family concerns. And so we want to be aligned so that we might touch one piece, but we are passing along from early Head Start to preschool program or some other supports. And we're committed as a community for a system of support for families, seamless, so they can get the support if that's needed. And then finally, just touching on the family engagement, I started at the beginning talking about the service to the child and the partnership with families. And so Director Kincaid, just would like to thank you for your co-leadership of our Family Advisory Council. We have good interest now, so we're launching that. And the first, again, we promised everybody who's coming, it's not a team to sit around and talk, but it's a team that's going to be in action. And the first step is to determine how can families engage the school. Almost like you are here, what could you do next? And then we will be working on our shared responsibility to ensure student success as our advisory council brings in the voices of our family with the work that we do here. So I'm excited about this opportunity to come to our leadership team together, collectively committed to bring success to our schools. It has to be a day-by-day commitment. I appreciate the board's emphasis of the importance, and we must do this. We must. It's a moral imperative to support our students fully. So appreciate the time tonight. Thank you.
Board questions, go ahead.
I got some tough questions.
Yes.
Not gonna lie. The SBAC scores came back and we did not do great. So we've seen a lot of tools here that aren't new. We've been doing them for years. Are they working? Because I mean, I know testing is the only way to gauge an education, but it's the way we have. See if our kids are improving and learning, and it doesn't look like it to me. And so I question all this effort. I mean, is it working? I mean, can we defend the actions that we're taking? There's something that would work. So, I mean, again, I don't need an answer, but I just see that and have to ask those questions of, okay, I've been part of this process, I've been conference going over this stuff, and I'm like, well, great, but I'm not seeing the results. It causes me deep concern. Like Carl was talking about in his board comment, I have concerns because we're doing all these things. They sound great, but I'm not seeing the results in the end, and it really concerns me. I'm just putting it out there, just being honest. I'm not looking for an answer, but I just want to get that out there.
Yeah, I appreciate you saying that. And actually, I would like to answer. So the systems of support that I talked about earlier, the better those get, the better the teacher, the better the performances of kids. And I would say the most significant commitment to this work is at the leadership level. So I would say Dr. M's bringing that commitment to our leadership team and saying this will happen is critically important. And I heard we did not ask Mr. Mayor to speak, but he unsolicited shared that he was seeing that this summer. So that means it was heard by our team, but beyond just saying it, making the commitment, it's that monthly time that we spend together as a team, and also when Dr. M and I are actually side by side with the principals, because really we can teach teachers, we can provide supports and resources, but it comes down to the leadership that ensures that that work is implemented and happens. And so this commitment that we have this year in working with principals, with assistant principals, and side by side looking at the plans, and then having, you know, the conversations about celebrating growth, certainly looking at the successes, but then the tough questions that you're bringing up, Director Butler. You know, what if we're in a spot and we're looking at a particular area and we're not seeing the growth, and drilling down with leadership, and why is that, and what would need to change? We know good practice in education. We just need to be putting that into action consistently.
Yeah, and I'll chime in. It's something similar in terms of looking at the desired outcome. So, and I'm very, very black and white in the sense of, right, when I look at the scores, I would say that at least at a bare minimum, and I hope I'm not shooting too high here, but at a bare minimum, we should be in line with the state. Like that should be the goal of what we are shooting for.
We should not be bringing the state average down.
Right, exactly. So we should, at a bare minimum, that should be, you know, where we are shooting for. And honestly, even still, the state numbers are alarmingly low to me, from my perspective. But that being said, as we're going backwards, you know, obviously there's a lot of thought that goes into this as we're working backwards. I think maybe it's something I could take offline, but just more understanding the thought process and the mechanisms that go behind it, because I just want to make sure that we haven't built this beautiful aircraft, this plane, everybody's getting on board, but we have no exit rows or parachutes, right? We need to have a mechanism in place, not just a process, so that as we're going through and we're evaluating, we're going through the half-year evaluations. So when we get the half-year evaluations and we sit here and say, wow, nothing's improved, what next? Are we still chugging along and hope that it magically changes, or what mechanisms are in place to then say, okay, how do we evaluate what's working and what's not, and adjust for there?
That's like the crux of what has to happen, and that's where this professional learning community in these teams, that is the work, and we have, you know, our community's been generous to give us time every Wednesday. But the teams are sitting there, they have established what the goal is for the class. They know the standards. They've established the target of their administrative assessment. If the kids are not there, they don't wait for the half-year mark. The half-year is more of the system level, but they are adjusting their instruction. And having watched effective teams do this work, they actually put their data out. So if we've all taught the same lesson in math, and my kids in my class didn't get it at the same level as the others, then the conversation opens up. Well, if we're implementing the same book, what am I doing differently in my room? And that's where the principals are actively involved. And again, I'm sorry to pick on you, Mr. Maynard, but you happen to be here.
Because I want to hear teaching and learning.
Yeah, he's, you know, I'm just gonna say, you know, Mr. Neisner and Mr. Maynard were all on board with this as we started talking in the spring about this reset. And they said, you know, we're gonna do our professional learning communities in the library. We're just gonna take the bookshelves out and we'll all be there, because then we can be side by side with the teams. So that's, when you talk about the mechanism, that is the mechanism.
And then within that mechanism, understanding that we have the half days on Wednesdays for a reason, is that a requirement for teachers? So every teacher across every school is, okay. So that's it.
All in.
Okay.
Yep, all in. And then the principals also, principals who are effective principals are certainly in the professional learning community, and they're watching, they're guiding. You know, if they see somebody not where they need to be, they're providing that this is what the team looks like, but they're also working with the team on a regular basis. So the data that comes from there, the things that are happening in the classroom, are discussed at staff meetings. And so that's an ongoing, it's the sense, think about it from a teacher perspective, it means I'm not just going in my classroom to teach, but I am working with others. We're analyzing together how I can make my practice as effective as possible.
Okay.
And then as a school team, the same thing.
Okay. So technically, there's like a weekly paper trail effectively of what we've done, what's working well, what's not, what are we changing, and why.
Yeah, and that
Okay.
was the reset that we worked through with our, with everybody in the gym.
Mhm.
That's kind of hard to have everybody in the gym
Yeah.
at one time. But the idea was we actually had to work through several steps with us.
Okay.
And these are the steps that as a district, that's how it's gonna look in your professional. And I have to say, some years ago, we actually got a few people, well, a bunch of people really excited when they first started seeing, at one or two of the schools, they started seeing change.
Mhm.
And they thought, well, this is exciting. And so our association came to the district at that time and asked if we could put professional learning communities in the contract. But since then, we've had a lot of turnover of staff, principals. So it's just really time to get back to like really the basic level.
Yeah. Okay. Thank you.
I just had kind of an idea or thought or question, what have you, but kind of going off of our parental engagement to help facilitate all of this from a parent side. I don't know how it is with the higher, like middle school, high school, but for the elementary, when they go through and they take these assessments, we don't really get a report back. So we don't know where our kid's at, or at least I haven't. So I don't know, is there a way? I know that we go through our parent teacher conferences and stuff, and we talk about the stuff in the classroom, but is there a way that we can give the parents kind of a report so they know where their kid is missing in certain places, and then give them places they get, like resources, so that they can help at home, cover some spots too?
Yes, that is a great thing to ask, and I'm hoping the Family Advisory Council brings up more of those, because there are
Yeah.
family reports.
Okay.
Those just need to be sent home and
Yeah.
shown at conferences.
Yeah.
And then we also, kind of getting back to a prior question, as we look at family engagement, I know that principals are wanting to have families involved on their school improvement plan.
Mhm.
That's been hard during COVID, Zoom and different types of teaching.
Yeah.
But that's another place where the data can be reviewed more at the grade level and school level.
Yeah.
That for sure, the family reports, and we want to hear that.
Yeah.
To make sure those things are getting to families.
Okay.
Okay, so I guess let me put the comments and the questions I'm about to say in the context. So test scores are one of many ways of judging the richness, the veracity, the health of a school district, right? But they are one, right? There's many other things that goes into being a successful school district other than test scores. The challenge that we face is that you can't measure those other things. You can't measure relationships. You can't measure anything else that goes into kind of measuring the veracity. And so, the easiest, the quickest way to measure is via, test scores, right? So test scores matter. I would argue that they matter just as much as everything else. But with that said, they matter, right? So I guess I don't say this to call anyone out or to cast our district that I love deeply in a negative light. But to me, I always grew up in a home where if there's a problem, you have to identify it and then you have to talk about it, right? So here's the reality of the situation. Based on the updated SBAC scores, taking the lowest enrollment district in Snohomish County out, which, a district of only 400 kids, which by the way, is higher than us in some test score areas, but taking them out, we have the lowest test scores in Snohomish County by far, not even close. Sultan, 46.6% in ELA, 28.6 in math, 38.8 in science, still below the state average, but that's a very comparable district. Marysville, 37.4, 24.1, 32.5. Everett, 64 in ELA, 49 in math, 55.8 in science. I read these test scores and I wonder, I guess I ask the question, are our students the lowest performing students in Snohomish County? I think not. Are our teachers the lowest performing teachers in Snohomish County? I think not. So then why? What is missing? Something is broken. Guys, we have to admit something is broken. Something is not working. We've talked about improvement plans. We've since my 9 years on the district, we've gone through, we're going to do this, we're going to do that. Yes, COVID hit us, but COVID is over. Something has to change. I don't know what that is. I'm not an educator. I've got wonderful educators, administrators in place, and I'm staring at them. But guys, it's broken, right? We are not where we need to be. We are failing in this district. Academically, we are absolutely failing. Any way you want to slice it, we are failing. So I guess here's my challenge. One thing I've never seen in a school improvement plan or in a discussion that we've ever had is a finite number. And what I mean by a finite number is for us to go, we are by the end of the last SBAC of this year, we are going to improve our scores 5%. And saying that to the whole of the district and saying, okay, who doesn't think that we can do 5%? Raise your hand. Okay. Sir, why don't you think we can do 5%? Well, this or this. Have a discussion, honest discussion based upon the barriers that we think that would stand in our way to be able to get to that specific number. And then have a discussion based upon removing those barriers. What can we do to remove those barriers? And then everyone walks out of that room and that is the goal. Come hell or high water, that is where we are going. I challenge administrators in this room. That is what we need. That is a finite plan that gets everybody on the same page that says this is where we're going. And the conversation from that point forward is addressing those barriers that we feel are standing in the way of the 5%. And then it's just a matter of the adults getting us there, right? And the kids, of course, obviously doing the work. And it takes a supportive structure and all these things, but that is part of the plan. That is, to me, we have to set a goal. And then every day it's just a review of that goal, because it is what we're doing is not working. And I hear and I appreciate the presentation, Dr. Manson. Like I said, my comments are not to call anyone out, but something is not working and something has to change. I don't know what that something is. I trust you guys to do that. But again, I challenge you to create a realistic but attainable goal based upon specific SBAC improvement percentage-wise. And then the conversation from this point to the end of that results of that SBAC are about how do we get there every single day, addressing ways to get there.
I agree. Thank you.
And by the way, just as a side note, a 5% increase in those is still going to be significantly below the state average. So we still got a lot of work to do even outside of that. But we have to get marching on the same beat here, because again, it's we have an absolute responsibility. Thank you for saying it, Dr. Manson, paramount duty to be able to step up to the plate here. And I don't believe that Sultan teachers and students are better. I don't believe that Marysville teachers and students are better, or Snohomish, or Everett, or on Lakewood, Edmonds, go on and on and on. I take our kids over any of those kids any day of the week. But feelings and execution are two different things. So we have to execute.
Yeah, absolutely. Absolutely.
That's all I've got.
Thank you.
All right. Fun transition. 3C.
Did Ava have any questions?
Oh, Ava, I'm sorry. Okay.
Stay low.
Facility and operations update prepared by Dion. So it's I'm sorry, I was getting to my presentation. I looked up, I saw your look, Dion. So obviously it is prepared by, so do we have any questions or anything for Dion? And I'll start with just one. Dion, just because we're talking about the field later and those types of things and potentially security, and it seemed like you were kind of volunteered, unfortunately, or as we used to say in the military, voluntold. Is that an issue, or, I mean, what does that look like for you, I guess, if you don't mind me, and obviously that's not in your presentation, but it's just very current.
So we've had some, excuse me, we've had some vandalism happen at the stadium. So there's a couple areas that we need to secure more before we start construction. The vendor will have some of their equipment on site. So we really need to make sure that we're not purchasing more equipment for the vendor. So we need to make sure that the gates are locked, and I would, I'm sorry, but I'm against Michael. I would close the entire thing until it's done. I would not let anyone be anywhere near any kind of construction site anywhere until it's completely done. So safety wise, we don't want anybody to get injured. We don't want pieces of equipment or metal to fall on someone, anything like that. I would just be completely lock it down completely until we're done. And we can let communities on the field open their policies, procedures. Just the safety aspect of, you know, what we already have here. I wouldn't want anyone in the community. I would like them to enjoy it, not us prolonging, oh, now this is a safety issue because we allowed this. You know, this person or this group, or why can't this group go on and this group can't? I'll just go to everyone until construction is complete.
So just to follow up, I'm sorry, do we have security? I know the answer to this question, but I guess I'm going to ask anyway. Do we have security or something? So let's say the field is locked and it's 4th of July, right? Or something along those lines. Do we have somebody that's like physically checking to make sure that people aren't off on the field, or if they do, that they're, you know, asked respectfully to leave, or those types of, I guess, systems in place? Or is that an additional cost or something that we need to talk about also as a district? Do you get what I'm asking?
Yeah, so it's going to be an additional cost because I do it.
Yeah.
So we're going to have to figure out how to do, well, I'm just messing with you. No, so I, on a regular basis, on holidays or stuff like that, every night, between 8:30 and 9, I go around and check all the buildings to make sure that the doors are closed, gates are locked, secured, chains, stuff like that. A lot of times when I'm out of town, it gets missed, so that's when the vandalism happens, but majority of the time, I'm the one that's going around checking the facilities, the gates, making sure everything's locked up. So,
Mr. Chair, I want to add to that, if I can.
Please.
We've talked in cabinet about this need, and again, referring to a former district, we hired someone for 3 hours a night, starting at 10 o'clock. They hit every building. Our best one was a dog walker who walked the whole area, and it was the best thing. And so I consider a small amount of money, from 9 or 10 to 12 or 1, it will deter a lot of the issues.
Yeah. So I'm encouraged to hear that's been discussed. I appreciate that.
yeah, I would appreciate that too.
I'm sure.
Yeah,
I'm sure other Freemans will appreciate it too. That's all I've got. Board.
I have a question.
Go ahead.
Sorry, I like going first. I think I'll go first for years. So it's fun. I really appreciate the new fence that went up around the JV field. You know, so people can't drive on our field and mess them up, doing donuts and stuff. Are there plans to add access gates kind of closer to the stadium? Or maybe even, I mean, my major concern is like, if someone's injured, how to get an ambulance back to those fields, drive through the track and around?
Yeah, so the ambulance is the only vehicle that is allowed to drive on the track.
Okay, is that the plan? Because it's a lot, I don't know if there's a plan to put an bigger access gate somewhere in that new fence.
We can visit that.
But not a plan.
But not right now.
Okay, just something to think about, because,
The point is every winter they take their
Oh,
trucks
yeah. Oh, I
and they
know.
destroy the field.
oh, I love the fence.
And have to pay 10 to 15,000 every year to get them repaired. So the point is pay 10,000 one time
Oh,
to
yeah.
cover the field, so we don't have to keep
coming out money to repair the JV field.
So it's
But if
fantastic.
that's something that is needed, we
Yeah,
can
that's my
certainly
concern.
do, an access for the ambulance, but right now, it's
No,
right
it's-
on the track.
Yeah,
I don't know, on the new track, we have to rethink something like
yeah,
that.
we're gonna put a gate in for the new
Yeah.
track, yeah,
But,
right?
yeah.
That's just a long, yeah, I just,
Curious, so with air quality being such
I
a,
knew it was coming.
oh yeah, air quality being such an issue right now. So I know that we put in a bunch of air filters. I believe is it every classroom in the district or just
So it's every wing in the building, so say like Mountain Way,
Mhm.
each one of those wings is on its own unit.
Okay.
So we change the filters in that wing
okay,
for that unit.
okay. And each room also does have their own little
Yes.
unit as well. And just making sure like all those are rated for room size and, okay. Yeah, I wanted to make sure of those. And I'm just trying to think if there was anything else. No, that's the primary concern, just because obviously we don't have something like the bulletproof fire too often. But it's something that we need to prepare for, especially with whether you want to acknowledge or not, we're seeming to have a lot more fires more recently, locally and everything. So I just wanted to make sure that that's.
So we,
addressed.
since COVID, we used to purchase MERV 8 filters, and now we're using MERV 13 filters.
Okay.
Which is a higher quality, a
Okay,
little bit more cost, but it does a better job than the MERV 8.
okay, okay, perfect.
Any other questions?
Actually, really, so you said, yeah, each wing has its own unit. So we have the boilers in there to regulate heat. As far as regulating, the few months out of the year where it gets hotter, is there any way to regulate that within those classrooms outside of?
So what's happening is I'm getting a lot of questions about why it's so hot in the building. So the elementary buildings don't have central AC. So now it's getting colder at night and in the morning. So we set the boilers to push heat in. So about 5 o'clock in the morning, it's pushing heat to regulate the temperature. So when staff and students come in at 7, 8 o'clock, it's warm.
Yeah.
Well, there's no way to cool it down because now the sun is coming up and now we're going to go to 79, 85 degree weather. So now the building is hot. So usually within 2 to 3 weeks, it regulates itself when we get colder temperatures that are lasting longer.
Yeah.
So that's just right now how it is.
Okay.
It's Washington, most people don't have air conditioners in their home, but our school buildings currently don't have those. So I know it's a nuisance, but the staff can open the windows and, let some of the heat out. Because I went with my maintenance guy and we measured some of them, and some of them are 75 degrees at 2:30. It's hot.
Yeah.
So, but I don't have any way to push in colder air
Gotcha.
into those rooms until we get into like October,
Mhm.
when the temperature starts being cooler longer.
Okay, no, thank you.
Any other questions? All right, and appreciate it.
Yeah, thank you.
All right, moving on to item 3D, Superintendent Report, Dr. M.
Perfect. I just reflecting here that as I'm honing in on 6-0, becoming a little bit more blunt and a little bit less tolerant on some things. So I think that's probably the topic of my report tonight, or the theme of my report, because I've got 2 areas I'm pretty concerned about. I talked to Director Carey, I think a couple months ago, and he had asked that every month or every meeting, we talk about safety. And didn't need any convincing because that's just the world we live in right now. I shared last time that Chief Dalton was making a priority for him to get into the buildings
and visit, show up, visit with principals, look at our weak areas. But he also made a promise that he was going to come unannounced. And if he can breach a building, he will. He was 4 for 5 this week. And I don't know if he tried the 5th one. And the best part was on 2 of those buildings, it was right around the time of a staff meeting. So he could just go right into talking with the staff why it is so important to keep doors locked, because he just walked right in. So I appreciate his commitment and his assistance in making our school safe. The second item is the Smarter Balance Assessment. And I'm really trying not to use acronyms, but Smarter Balance Assessment is SBA. So as we go back and forth. And here's the blunt talk of this topic. First, I'm thrilled that we have talked as much as we have about test scores tonight. And we have a problem and we have got to address it. I met with the admin team in summer and then most recently, and my theme for this year is built on these assumptions. This has to happen. Yes, relationships, more than ever. I mean, that's the state theme, social emotional learning. We've got to meet kids where they are. It's a safety issue also. We have to know our students. That's the foundation. After that, you've asked, what's the issue? We have got to focus on standards. If we're just teaching what we want to teach, and we're not focused on the grade level standards, we're going to continue to have scores where they're at. iReady map, that's measures of academic progress. So iReady, given K-8, measures of academic progress. It's also something we have 3 times a year to the high schools. That's non-negotiable. We have got to give those every single year. The analogy I gave, I coached cross country for years. And you go to a cross country meet, the coach does not start at the start and finish line. They run to the first mile mark and they're telling their runners either speed up or slow down, or they're giving adjustment. They run to the second mile mark, give them encouragement and adjustment. And then the final one, I mean, did you meet that target, which we talked about at practice all this time? Did you meet that target? That's how we need to look at this. So they have to be given 3 times a year, non-negotiable. Dr. Mann's talked about professional learning communities, PLCs. The topic of those have got to be iReady, MAP, and then the common assessments that those grade level teachers develop and give. It can't be, I'm going to do my thing, I'm going to close my door, and that's it. They have got to be talking and working together. And it takes leadership. It takes teacher leadership. It takes our principal leadership. It takes our district leadership. School improvement plans absolutely have to include what you're talking about. They have to include where we want to be. And honestly, we need to be shooting for state average this first year. It's got to be that. Assessments. If we're just doing it for compliance, and honestly, we have some teachers who are all in and they want to give those assessments. They're encouraging their kids. They're telling them to sleep well. They're working with their parents. And we do have some teachers that, you know what, the district is forcing us to do this. We have to do this. They are making us do it. That doesn't work. We have to create an assessment culture that shows student ownership, that they are talking with their teachers. I think I can, on a MAP test, I think I can reach this goal. They need to be talking about that. And you can create a culture, and it starts with our principals, it starts with me, saying, listen, parents, it's important. Make sure your kids are getting rest. Make sure they're taking this seriously. This does impact their academic growth. And it does impact our community. People coming, looking to buy homes
they talk to their realtor, and it's on all those realtor sheets. What are the local test scores? We're gonna get the same results if we don't do something different. And I do want to acknowledge, I'm thinking specifically of Monte Cristo, that we saw growth in Mountain Way also. But I'm thinking of Paige's presentation because she was able to show on iReady some of that nice growth. I don't think it translated last year to the SBA, but it needs to this year. So here are my questions and my request. We want to know why there's an issue. Are we protecting academic learning time? There should not be one darn movie shown in school during the year. And it drives me nuts when I find out there's movies being shown. That is inexcusable. We've got to protect academic learning time. The day before Thanksgiving, before holiday break, before homecoming, I get it. We lose some of those days. Valentine's Day at an elementary school, forget it. There's still ways you can tie a standard in, believe it or not, but I get it. But those other 160 days, 155 days, they need to be focused on instruction. Second, are we providing standards-based instruction? If we're not, forget it. We're going to get the same. If we're not looking at those standards, if we can't walk into a classroom and see on the board, oh, this is the standard I'm teaching today, then we're just teaching what maybe we want or what's convenient, what we like. Is the instruction teacher-centered or student-centered? I'll be honest, I started teaching a long time ago, 1986, a long time ago. It was teacher-centered. Teach, test, and move on. And through my career, there was that shift. It moved to, okay, we need to focus on students and their learning, individualized learning plans. There is a real shift in that. We cannot be teacher-centered anymore. We can't move on until all of our students are ready to move on. Those who have already moved on, we got to do something different and provide some enrichment. Our teachers helping our students own their learning, whether that's a test score, whether it's their learning, are they, is it making that personal connection? And then again, that last one, are we creating an assessment environment that says, kids, do your absolute best. This is important. This will show you how you're going to grow. This is how you're going to make a target, as opposed to, that's just Middleton. He makes us do these iReady tests. What a different message that is. This is what I've asked. I've asked this of the staff. I've asked this of the admin. Give me 2 years. Just give me 2 years where you're focused on standards and you create this positive assessment environment, and I guarantee things will improve. That's got to happen. That's the only way. So here are the test scores. And they might be small, and Director Carey covered some of these. State average at the top, 51, 38, 43. Okay. Granite Falls in language, 35, 16 points off. Math, 18 points off. Science, 8 points off. Those are achievable numbers. Let's shoot for those. Then I always go to Sultan and Lakewood. Lakewood, I had a long talk with their superintendent the other day, and I said, we're in the same boat. I mean, Lakewood and Granite, we're just about the same. What are we doing? And so we talked about what they're doing, and we're doing a lot of some similar things. Sultan, they bumped up on that ELA, don't know what they're doing. It's our job to find out what those successful districts are doing. Talked a little bit about Darrington, and then we go down, and I even threw Meridian because we played them the other night. I just thought, okay, let's see what they're doing. And you're right, we are not anywhere close to where we should be. I need the staff to commit for 2 years and we will see something different. And it is my cabinet and my principals and our message to the teachers, there's got to be something different because we cannot have these test scores anymore. We have got to see an improvement. I know, I want to go back to this for a second. So we looked at this. I want to dispel the problem or the excuses. All of these schools had sub-problems last year. All of these schools had COVID. All of these schools had January, February, Omicron, where everybody was out sick. And yet, we actually went down from pre-pandemic. I know it's a whole bunch of different kids, a lot of different variables. And so I don't want to get into that too much. My final point on this, though, is I don't really want to hear about the validity of standardized tests. You can have that argument when you're scoring at the 70th percentile or 80th percentile. Yeah, go ahead and you can. When we're this low, we're not talking about validity. We're talking about we are not teaching to the standards. We're not protecting academic learning time, and we are not creating an assessment culture that says, kids, do your best. Those are the 3 areas that we need to address. So, any comments or questions?
I have a comment or, well, kind of a question also. So one of the things that you said was really wanting the teachers instructing as much as possible, you know. So one of the things that stands out to me is that a lot of the teachers' day, I would say close to 80% of their day is managing behaviors, and then 20% of the day is actually teaching. What can we do to support these teachers so that they're not spending their whole day managing behaviors and they're actually getting to instruct?
Right, and I do, that's another thing that will come up. And all of these other schools also face, face that as well. And so we make a deliberate investment in a behavior specialist who's they're basically, they're more than triage. They go to schools, and when they see a problem, they work with the teacher to say, okay, this is how you might handle it. Now I know she could be a little overloaded because I know, especially at the younger grades, there's a lot of that. So, you know, that's one. I'm not going to say putting more people in the classroom is the way to go because we did that last year, and you know, I don't think that's it. It really is. There is just some time of getting used to doing school again. And right now,
is there anything any of them are doing differently that we can?
And that's a great question. And that's something my team can look and ask about. What are you doing differently? Yeah, I just lost the thought, but that's okay.
Anyone else?
Yeah, this is just something where I love the passion because it truly is. I 100% believe when I came to this board and presented my thoughts on public school, right? I truly believe that anybody can literally do anything. I'm not trying to do a valedictorian speech here or anything, but anybody is truly capable of doing whatever they want to do. It just takes the effort behind this. And I know it's hard, and any teachers listening, administrators, this plea from Dr. Middleton, this plea from the board does not come at a sense of like, well, of course you should be doing it. You know, it's the job. I know it's going to be hard. I know it's not an easy ask for the teachers to go through this. You're going to have super hard days. And this is where, you know, I'll ask, you know, from my side as well, too, anywhere that the board can support, I would be more than happy to support. But this really is, I just noticed there's it's this bond of relativity across the school district right now, where if you're doing better than your peers, then you must be doing good. But to your point, without standards in place, you could be doing better than your peers, but you're still 2 grade levels behind. And the test scores clearly show that. And so I appreciate the fist pounding on the desk and everything, because while you mentioned that, I look up, Redfin right now. I mean, unfortunately, perception is reality. Mountain Way is not rated. Monte Cristo's 4 out of 10. Middle school is 1 out of 10, and the high school is a 5 out of 10. Like it's not a good look, and
Right.
these test scores do reflect that. And so once again, this isn't chastising or it's just, to Carl's point, or to Director Carey's point earlier, something is broken, something needs to change. And so wherever we can support, right, we'll lean on your knowledge and expertise, but I'll speak for myself, not for the entire board, but I'm here to support that as well. So I appreciate
And I want to thank you for that, because I didn't preface this, but I do, when I meet with groups, this isn't about condemnation. This is,
Yeah.
I mean, I look at things, this is reality of today, but we do have to do something different. And we have to make that 2-year commitment.
I greatly appreciate the presentation, Dr. I didn't even know that, that was going to be part of your presentation and stuff, but it's extremely timely. And just to echo Director Ledoux's comment and even go one step further, kind of in my thoughts of the challenges, if there's something that's missing, a tool or something that we need, policy, whatever, I'm ready, right? Like, tell me what you need, right? How much does it cost and what do you need, right? Like, I'm not crossing my arms and going fix it, right? I want to be an active participant in the road to where we need to go. I just need, not having an educational background, I don't have the answers, right, on what that is. So I appreciate that. I just wanted to go back to your first point. I also really appreciate the focus on safety. And you diligently presenting and talking about it every meeting. I guess I'm just curious, or I just want to allow you the time to go one step further with your point about Chief Dalton and being able to get in the buildings and stuff like that. And that's obviously an issue. What are we doing to lessen, mitigate, address that in a way so that hopefully the next time he decides to do it, maybe we're half rather than almost every single building.
Absolutely. And I think the real benefit of that timeliness, whether it's by coincidence or plan, that he walked in during a staff meeting, he took that time, quite honestly, to chastise the staff, say, I know what the mandate is, all doors locked. I just got in here. And so there is that self-awareness right there. But certainly even last week, I sent a follow-up to the entire staff, this is what we're doing, and we'll just continue to, hit that home. And then I guess another point is on our volunteer parent group, we have 40 signed up. So
Wow.
I'll be working with Jennifer to get those through the volunteer process, and then set up some protocols. They'll meet with principals. We'll get them best whatever they need, and off we go.
Outstanding.
Has there been feedback from the staff who got chastised? Have you heard anything from them? How do they feel? I'm just curious.
No, I've only heard from the administrators.
Okay, what'd they say? Were they?
They said it was the best lesson that could have happened, because they've been saying the same message and reiterating my message. And it was like, see, this is why we have to do it.
Any other questions, comments? Thanks.
Thank you.
Thank you.
All right, jumping into item 3E, board reports. Let's start with community reports.
Yay. Okay, so I'm really excited about my report today because I started the Our Story project, and I have gotten the most phenomenal feedback ever from not only the community, who's really excited to learn about all of us, but also from staff members who are really excited to learn about staff members who are at other buildings, from admin to middle school teachers wanting to learn about the teachers who are at the elementary or at the high school. It's been phenomenal. I've gotten a lot of submissions, and I encourage all of you to submit photos and a little paragraph about who you are and why you're here so that I can continue to share them. I've gotten quite a few. So I'm just working on putting those together and releasing. I'd hope to release 2 a week. It might have to go down to 1 a week, just because of my time constraints, but it's been amazing and the community is really excited about it. And so is all the staff. So it's been awesome. The other thing that I just wanted to say, I had the opportunity to go to a Monte Cristo boosters meeting the other day. And not only the Monte Cristo boosters, but all of the boosters from all the schools are really encouraging parents and families and whoever to come join, or even just sit in a meeting so you can hear what's going on. And they've got a lot of cool events and fundraising things that they're working on. And so it's really neat to get to sit and listen to them. I know Monte Cristo's got a whole bunch of fun things coming up in the next month or two. So check out your local boosters.
Outstanding. Any questions on the community report board?
Do we want to discuss the scheduling for Railroad Days booth here? Well, while we're all here, we can talk about
Yeah,
it. Just, I mean,
for who's volunteering and
yeah, I
when.
mean, we're all together and
Yeah.
we can have our meeting here. Yeah,
I've got General Assembly, so I got to sit on the computer.
I got the football game in the afternoon. I can be here early in the morning.
I just want to be able to sit and watch the parade with my kids. Otherwise, I can be anywhere at any time.
Is our booth on the main drag of the parade? Are we off in a corner? Do you know?
Main drag.
Main drag?
It's kind of by where we were last year.
You could have great seating with your kids in the booth.
Yeah, I'll be there then. For the parade time, yeah.
Front row seat right there.
Heck yeah, I'll be there.
Are you gonna be there? How's your knee?
Yeah, I'll have to, I will plan to be there, but yeah, those on the camera that can't see, I had knee surgery 2 weeks ago, so this is even pushing the limits right now.
We can push you in the parade.
Oh, yeah.
Like a little-
We'll get to a rascal.
Yeah, so I can be there in the morning for as long, I gotta get to the football field for the youth football games, but I can be there early.
Okay. Moving on to WIA. Anything?
Yeah, no official updates for WIA, aside from the fact, once again, I'll go back to air quality stuff. It's been hit and miss, obviously, over the past few weeks, as stuff's blowing over and blowing back. It's just my plea to the community again, too. You're darned if you do, you're darned if you don't, right? If you keep practices on, people are going to be upset that you're keeping practices on. In poor air quality, if you cancel them, people are going to wish that they would have practiced. So just, show patience. We're really trying to, or, Dr. Middleton and the rest of the administrative staff are really trying to keep safety at the front and foremost option in our mind. So, be patient with it. I know it's not to cancel practice, but it's definitely something that is needed in this strange time like this. But that's my only.
Any questions on the WIA report? Okay, ledge report I'll share. So we are still meeting as a kind of a small group on formulating and creating that video presentation that we're going to present, hopefully with completion by mid to late October on kind of the real world impact of the regionalization factor that we've been assigned and kind of the things that have impacted us, and specifically teacher retention, student retention, and comparable services. We've done a lot of hard work. I want a huge shout out to Dr. Middleton, Marshall, Dr. Manns, as well as Ms. McLaughlin, Mr. Von Jensen, and Isaiah, is that Melanie? Melanie, sorry, Melanie, as well, and Wendy Beach, Julie, as well, for participating in it. So we're at the point now where I think that we are ready and planning to start filming next week. Mr. Von Jensen has a kind of a storyboard. We've created some questions that we're going to ask, some locations, some points that we're going to hit. We've talked to people that we're going to interview, and I believe we have everybody on board that's going to interview. I do need to talk to you, Mr. Butler. I forgot, but I would like to have Butler kid involvement.
Which one?
All of them.
Oh, dang.
Yeah. Maybe not the baby.
Oh, no, what's is gonna be there?
But just because your kids are unbelievably photogenic and fun to have on camera. It's not a speaking role. It's
They
more something else.
take after many things, so we're okay there.
So we are moving forward in that. And like I said, I feel good about having something mid to late October. As we move forward and get closer, there were some really good ideas. I don't want to take credit for this that came up in the room about how to present that to our legislators. One of the things that we talked about, if we can get it done mid to late October, is actually inviting, our representatives in the 39th, maybe even the 38th and the 40th are adjacent to the schools, kind of see kind of what we're doing. Also, provide them this video, kind of talk about it in a deeper level. And then maybe doing some sort of field trip, November, maybe December, or something like that, to Olympia with some students. And coordinating, actually meeting with legislators, all of the legislators statewide in Olympia, and presenting them this video and talking about kind of the challenges that we have here in Granite Falls. I thought that was an absolutely wonderful idea, much better than just sending it to an email, which they can ignore and stuff like that. So as we get closer, as it kind of starts to formulate more into an actual plan, obviously I'll come back to the board and we'll keep you guys apprised and stuff. So that's where we're headed now. Any questions? Oh, yeah. No, I was just going to say, by the way, and I'm at General Assembly the 30th, Friday the 30th from 9 to 5, and October 1st, which obviously is railroad days from 9 to 5 too. So
2 questions. First off, the funding for this video project, how is it funded? Do you need more support or?
No, so because we are advocating for the district, it's not a matter of presenting, not like a levy, vote yes or type of something like that. Yeah.
We don't, okay.
We're okay.
Yeah. And then the other one's more encouragement. I was thinking tonight about talking about the replacement of the turf and stuff, and how the forest funds are going to help support that. And I want to kind of tell a story about that. When I first got on the board, Carl, you got on a little bit before me. Forest funds, the state was generous to give us that money, and they immediately take it away.
Right.
They actually didn't give us any money. They did on paper and they took it right away, just to fulfill some obligation, but not actually fulfill the obligation. For months, I attended meetings. I went to Olympia several times, and a group of us, we pestered like the state, saying, "Why are you giving us money and taking it away? It's designed to help the rural districts. We're a rural district. Don't punish us." It took better part of a year. I know Director Short started before me. I kind of took the reins on after he kind of let it go to me. But we got it changed. Mm-hmm. And so I just want to say to you, Director Carey, and to the community and to everyone involved, it can get discouraging. It can take years, but change can happen. And I mean, I just look at the benefit of the forest coming to fruition of, hey, we need a field. How are we going to pay for it? Probably going to be forest money. Yeah. Where it's not going to affect our general fund. It's not going to affect the capital projects fund. So it can make a difference. So I really want to encourage everyone, if you ever feel like it's not going to work, it will. It just takes longer than you want, but it will work. So
appreciate that encouragement. Yeah. Any other questions? Okay. Moving on to item 4A in our agenda, item from the floor. Is there anyone who wishes to speak from the floor?
Signed up.
Is there anyone signed up? Only. Okay. All right, moving on to item 5A on our agenda, unfinished business, there is none. Okay, moving on to item 6A, Granite Falls High School Field and Track Proposal Discussion.
First thing, I think we're all in agreement, we should replace the track.
Oh, yeah.
That's the best part of the presentation, convincing us. Like, I think we're already all convinced of that. That was an easy sell. We need to do it. I mean, that's fair.
Yeah.
So let's get everything we agree on out of the way. Yeah.
Yep. I guess I'm not clear on what we're voting on. Is the intent, and I know Michael's gone, is it for us to vote on a specific number, design, all of that stuff tonight? Or I guess what type of motion are you looking for, Dr. M?
I think perhaps we start looking at what are the areas of agreement. And then from there, if we get a motion together, that's fine. Or if you want more information,
Well, I guess what he's asking is, do you want a motion for the funding, whether we want to get the 4-year taxable one and then a separate funding for the track, a separate funding for the field, or track and field together and funding separate, all three in one?
sure.
As well as colors and all that stuff.
Right.
Okay.
I think if we can do as much as we can tonight. And so the first motion, I think, is what Marcella recommended, and that's option 2, which seems to make sense. And I know it's $6,000 more, but a lot less
Overhead.
And that option, based off of how the funding goes, it doesn't change. I'm just throwing this out there. If hypothetically we go with the R300, there's another $100,000 across that.
It would go up more.
Right, go up more, but it's still under that 3/8 of 1%. Okay.
That cap is 2.6.
Okay.
And we're better not to spend on that tonight.
No.
So
Do you want to discuss funding then? Is that what you're saying?
Well, I guess, let me just ask one more,
sorry.
let me just ask one more question. So what is, or maybe you put it up, what's the dollar figure, the specific dollar figure that we have now, and what are we getting for that specific dollar figure? I just want to make sure I'm clear on that.
So $879,000.
Someone put it up, or?
879 is a green 200.
That was the green field, the 200, some color accents. There's a few different versions of the color accents. So we could choose, the black end zones or the orange end zones, a little bit of color on the track. All of those with the green field were the 879.
And if we wanted to add 300 with that, it's about 100,000 more.
I would have to get back to you on that.
But is that an estimate that is reasonable? Or are we way under, way over? I mean, just
I feel like
real rough.
when the bids came in, it was about $100,000 more.
So, yeah.
If it helps, on the proposal that we got before, it was almost exactly $100,000.
So I think then the discussion goes around, right? What do we agree upon on the field, at least in principle, and then
Let's talk about the track first. That seems much less divisive. Let's say that, I mean, like.
the track, I feel like has the most opportunity.
I was serious about the comment I made earlier about like the NCYFL, the North State Youth Football Association. We were in the top running to have the Jamboree here, which is probably 5,000 people for an entire day, because our facilities are just, they're some of the best in the area. And like Dr. Middleton said, I think top of line track is gonna add to that, plus it gets double the lifespan.
Yeah, a 50% cost increase in my eyes for double the lifespan, or one and
Thereabout.
Thereabout. Feels like a responsible, and then plus then the added benefits of being, potentially being a destination location to drive local commerce and stuff as well.
So just a question. So what I'm not clear on is the 879, does that include the black and orange?
Yeah, cute color.
Okay. Okay, so it's that.
Yeah.
That's 879 with either black or orange on the field.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And then roughly 979 with the 300.
Okay, so I guess obviously my role as a board chair is to direct the conversation, not to direct the motions. So I think that we first make a motion potentially that we want to do the field, and then a separate motion for the track, and then for the field design. Because it seems like those are 3 areas that there's variables that we want to kind of flesh out. So at least that way, someone doesn't have to not vote for a motion potentially because it has a track design they don't want, or a field design.
Well, let's start easy. I mean, is everyone comfortable making a motion about the track?
The track design?
No, the track 200 or 300.
Oh,
Yeah, and
it's not, you can start there. You start wherever you like.
I mean, So I mean, I'd like to make a motion. We whatever proposal we do, the track will be 300.
Great. Okay.
And second,
Motion's been made and seconded to have the track to select the BS 300 discussion. So here's why I would not vote for that. For a couple of reasons is number one, I try to be as financially responsible with others' money, which is what we're spending, that would mine. And to me, there's not enough pros in the 300 to warrant the extra $100,000. And so if it was my money and I was doing something in my house, I'm not sure I would spend that, especially when you throw in the fact that that there is no other school in the state that has it, in Washington State, from what we're hearing. So to me, it gives the air of frivolous. And I think that we need to be, as financially, tight as we can. And I think the 200 will give us, as the representative said, a track that's on par with other people that will allow us to compete at the highest level and all of those other things. So that's my thoughts.
I have a quick question in terms of total cost of ownership. You mentioned that the resurfacing or the respraying would happen later on the 300. So it's not necessarily a replacement would need to occur of the 200 in half the time of the 300. It's just that it needs to be like gussied back up, or like what's.
It would have to be resprayed.
So is that a full cost redone? So
No, so all you're doing is you're just respraying the top coat.
okay. And sorry, we're putting you on the spot with numbers and figures right now and stuff. Any rough estimate on respraying for 200 after whatever it is, like the 8-year period? Or
I think you're probably looking at 150.
so, I mean, we're respraying after 8 years to get to potentially a single laydown of the 300. The 300 costs $300,000 for, we'll call it 12 years, and the 200 would cost $350 for said same amount. So that's where my personally, yes, it is more expensive. Yes, no other school districts are going through that, but I feel like then 8 years down the line, we might be sitting there saying, oops.
Well, that's 8 years plus inflation.
Yes, correct. Plus inflation.
And different.
Yeah.
Yeah, for me, it's math, and we get longevity. Like we get for the 50% extra cost, we get more than 50% benefit. I mean, it lasts longer, especially with the having to resurface after 8 years.
Yeah.
I mean, that's, for me, it's fiscally seems more prudent to get the one that lasts longer. So.
I think too, looking at the benefits, as Dr. Middleton had said, and others had said about how it just from a texture of a track can bring in more people to our town. It not only benefits us, but it benefits our community as well. And when we have the community lifted up, we're lifted up. So I feel like it.
My question actually too, because for me, the financial aspect of it is justification enough. But from your perspective, if we're bringing in, can you just like list a few of like the top pros from your mind of having a track like that and how that would benefit?
Sure. Yeah. So not only, do we become perhaps the divisional or state track meet, what we found was we ended up renting our whole facility to other school districts who don't have a track, but they want to host. And so they come, and we really have nothing to do with it, but we're leasing the use of this because of the high grade track that we had.
Okay.
So it's not just things we host, but it's giving that ability for others to host.
Okay.
Marshall, any concerns? So another 100,000 is another roughly $25,000 a year in payments. Any concern with making that payment with state forest funds or hitting our financial goals?
I'm not concerned about that. We'll have assuming the state forest money comes in at the same rate it's been coming in for the last few years, we'll have enough pre-banked going into the project that if we're doing 275 a year now, and we're only getting 250 in state forest funds, well, we're probably gonna have close to $500,000 in reserve of state forest funds going into the project. So we can pull from that state forest reserves to help pay for it. But it is an opportunity cost. We could transfer state forest money like we did this year into capital projects fund and buy capital project stuff with it. But I feel like the resurfacing of the track and the new field is one of the #1 needs of the district right now, because it's not going to be playable probably a year.
And I guess I just, with that said, want to remind the board that at some point in the near future, we're going to get a report from BLRB on a number of deferred maintenance items that have not been addressed, and they're going to have a dollar figure that's very significant tied to it. Any other discussion? Okay, motion's been made and seconded. All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Nay. Motion passes 3-1. Okay. Next.
No, want to talk about orange or green?
Orange or, oh, you mean fill color?
I mean, that's the next one, orange or green.
Yeah, meaning the whole field, not just the end zone.
Yeah. We
Okay.
got whole field orange or whole field green. If we go green, we can talk about that other part. If we go orange, then it's done.
Yeah.
Well, it feels like the community is pretty evenly split. Again, not making a motion, but just in discussion, I kind of like the idea of kind of meeting both sides of that with the green field and the colored end zones. I've also, there's been a lot of talk about this. I've been actually personally reached out by a couple of coaches, and I know that there was a strong non-orange field movement that was pressed pretty hard to me. So I agree that's a nice way of kind of meeting both sides of that.
I agree. So it's funny you say that. I got the same thing, but from the students.
Yeah.
Amazing how students are like, I really don't want orange. And they show me pictures of faded orange fields. I'm like, if it fades, it does look pretty bad at the whole field. And end zone fading is not a big deal. 120 yards fading is kind of rough. I did have a question. Any chance of getting tigers in the end zone?
Yes, there's actually a.
Is
slide
that more
shows
cost, or is that?
End zone letters are additional cost.
Yeah. How, like, guesstimate? I mean, because I think that'd be the compromise too, is we'd still be unique in pop, but still have the green and the pop of, is it, how crazy is it? I'm just curious.
It's not real crazy.
Is it less than the $47,000 color difference from orange and green?
I want to say it would be. Because how many letters you got there? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. I will say maybe in the 25 range.
Okay.
Well, also there's the opportunity. I mean, once again, this is just, pro teams will paint and scrub fields also. Like that could be something that we address in the future, as well as doing orange end zones. And then if there happen to be funds, maybe that could even be something through ASB that's funded, to come in and paint what they want within the end zones instead of having a fixed.
Well, it's not painted, it's actually.
No, I'm saying, yeah, not do a hard install, but I'm saying like NFL fields, right? They will paint, and then they have also, machines will come in and scrub them off and stuff for the next, team that's coming in or something.
So I know what you're saying there. So the Seahawks field is our field, and that's an all green field. So every game that gets painted and then scrubbed off, and then soccer gets painted and then scrubbed off. But
It's a lot of man hours.
It's a very expensive equipment
Yeah.
that does that.
Well, and I guess saying it more so in like, so like the type of paint that they use. So like if they wanted to go in and, at the start of the football season, paint Granite Tigers in there and, let it just be there until the beginning of the next season, and maybe they just paint over it again and no scrubbing. Is that like a reasonable?
I'd push you towards doing him
Okay.
if you really wanted to do that.
Okay.
So can I make a suggestion? Can we make a motion? Let's make a separate motion for the lettering. Let's make a motion about the fill color and the end zones, and then
Okay.
if that works for everybody,
Yeah.
I can make the motion, but
Well, hold on. Do we like discussion? I'm just curious, what's everyone thought is orange or black for the end zone and coaches boxes? Just curious.
If we're doing lettering,
Yeah.
I like the black with the orange myself.
Yeah, I was gonna say the same thing.
yeah, I
End zones with the orange lettering.
Yeah.
well, even if we are doing lettering, I like the black end zone.
It's the same
Yeah, me too. I like
Can you go up to the blackened zones and the, yes,
I like that.
I like
Yeah.
that.
Yeah.
I'd like it more with the orange lettering, but we'll talk about that later.
So if someone was, I could make a
I make a
motion.
motion, we do this.
I second it.
So a motion's been made and seconded for a green field with blackened zones.
And black coaches boxes.
And black coaches boxes. Oh, yeah, that's what that is. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Opposed, none.
Orange track too.
Who's second?
Yeah, I think black and orange.
I'm circling back to that.
I said this.
I'm sorry, I
Oh,
put
I'm
my
sorry.
finger on your face. Carly seconded.
Yes.
Okay. All right, so let's circle back to the track because I did notice that we did make a motion about that, about the black.
I said this, I put into a picture.
Oh.
Just joking.
So I make a motion that the track be black and orange as depicted in the slide.
Second.
Remain seconded. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
I
Or,
don't want to say no.
okay. So now if you want to go letters.
I make a motion, we put the letters in.
Really quick, the discussion.
We can discuss that.
Well, hold on, motion's been made. Is there a second?
Oh, second.
Second, okay, now we can discuss.
Okay. If it's possible, I think we should table this until we can actually get an official quote back from the letters. I don't want to blindly throw it out there and then it's like, oh, it's actually $42,000 to do the letters. Not that it will be, but.
And not to be a stickler for the rules, but that means that this motion would need to fail in order for that to happen, because the motion's been made to approve it with the letters.
Part of discussion, how vital is it to have a decision on letters tonight?
We can get you number 4 tomorrow.
We can make a motion contingent that it's not more than 30. Oh, I have to accept it. Yeah.
Actually, if you let me make a phone call, I can give you probably a number right now.
No, we could just do that. Let's talk about the
Oh,
words.
is it?
Everyone like granite and tigers.
I want to say Carly.
Carly.
That'd be great.
Well, we can have like one say Carly, one say Carl.
Oh, there you go.
I mean, we're left out. How do you feel about letters, the words in the end zone? You're in favor?
You speak for all students right now. So.
Yeah, that's literally your job. actually. No pressure. Yeah.
I've been asking her opinion as we go.
So I'm gonna put her on the spot.
What about changing the font to tiger?
Whoa.
Whoa.
It's too much. It's too much.
But I like stealing Auburn's logo.
And we vote on,
So the motion on the floor is to approve the letters.
and then what do we have us just voting on how we
Finance.
finance? Okay.
Yeah. Yep.
Get.
Or anything else that we want to do modification wise.
Do you think, is it, I mean, just granite and tigers, or you want like granite both that? I mean, do you think granite and tigers?
Yeah,
I mean,
Granite Tigers.
typically, yeah, like pro stadiums, it'll be like city on one side, team name on the other.
I'm just trying to conversation was on.
Oh, yeah.
2,000 a letter for a single color, 2,200 a letter for 2 color.
Are those 2 color white and
Yeah,
orange?
2 color. So you got orange with a white border around it.
3, 4, 5, 6,
13.
7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, $26,000.
26, about $30,000.
About 30,
Yeah. I mean, okay.
We're still in discussion. Any other discussion? Okay, motion's been made and seconded to add $30,000 for the lettering. All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Nay. All right. Last but not least, how are we going to pay for it? There was 3 options. So again, not directing the motion, but I would say whoever feels passionate about it to make a motion based upon the specific option presented. And I believe the recommended, Marshall, was 2, option 2. Okay.
What it's exactly called, and
Just option 2.
I'd like to make a motion that we accept option 2 of financing presented by Marshall.
Motion's been made to accept option number 2 of the financing proposals. Or a second?
Second.
Motion's been made and seconded by Director Butler. Discussion, anything you want to talk about there, about the motion, anything like that?
I find it wise to follow the suggestion of finance guy about financing.
In all things.
Yeah, generally works out better that way.
Okay, all in favor?
Aye.
Aye, opposed, none. Okay, passes 4-0. All right, anything else about that we're missing?
Is there anything about that we're missing?
I think so. I think you covered it. Made some good decisions.
Thank you.
Thanks for hanging in there.
Really appreciate it.
I personally wanted the orange, but I totally get the green. You know what I mean? It's like,
You happy with it, Ava?
Is AXB helping to finance anything?
They aren't. No, I'm not even sure ASB
you
can.
can't.
You can't use funds for that, can you?
No, we can only use general fund,
Capital,
capital.
Or state.
State ones.
yeah.
You can ask them.
That'd be great. All right, moving on to the last thing, the consent agenda. Is there any additions, changes, or anything? Any?
The additions are in the,
Oh, are they? I didn't look. My fault. Additions to the consent.
just the personnel.
Do you want to make a motion?
Oh, just one quick question. So they rescind the resignation, but it's under resignation. So is that rescinding the resignation so they're still going to work here, or rescinding the resignation, they're resigning? Yes. I don't want to say the actual name, but there's under resignation, there's a line that says rescind resignation for a person. So are they rescinding their resignation, or are they rescinding the resignation of the resignation?
No, that's not the right one.
Man,
That's us.
I guessed.
Am I not looking at the right one?
Yeah,
That's last week, last board meeting.
Oh, maybe somehow I clicked on,
oh, you're probably in minutes. No, wait.
I probably somehow clicked on the wrong one. Okay.
Let me double check. Sure.
Okay, yes, I was in the wrong one. I'm sorry.
I'm really concerned for a second.
Okay. Okay, so since there are additions, I believe I need a motion to approve the consent.
Make a motion to approve the consent agenda with the additions as listed in board docs.
Okay, motion's been made to accept the consent agenda as stated in board docs. Is there a second?
Second.
Motion's been made and seconded by Director Ledoux. Any discussion? In favor? Aye. Okay, passes 4-0. All right, with that, I will call a close to our meeting at 9:13. Appreciate it. Saying this anymore.